Hello, everyone. Welcome to the recurring segment where I go through live the new set, and now we have Magic Core Set 2020. The core sets are back, and this honestly is looking really good. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining me, especially from places all around the world. Last time you joined me and from streams, you were all over the place, coming into you, interrupting your dinners and all sorts of good stuff. So thank you so much. Hello, everyone. Oh my gosh, I love it so much. And it's particularly nice that you're joining me because right now is like the special streamer event. So like everyone is on Arena streaming stuff. And I actually have a code for that too. So if after this set review, after we get done with the real business of Commander content, then maybe we'll poke around on Arena. But we're going to get through the Commander set review first because really we want to know what's going on with this set and we want to talk about all of these new cards together. Yeah, people are talking about all of the crazy spoilers. I haven't even had enough time to like do deck techs and really process Modern Horizons. Like I just drafted it a couple days ago and now my mind is just going headlong into Core 2020. So come join me for some Core 2020 analysis right now. Hello everyone. Hopefully you're having a lovely day. I am too. Let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to do a little bit more reading than I did last time because some people said that they really like to listen to these set reviews and at some point in time they kind of want to know what the cards are. So we're going to skip Aerial Assault even though it has glowing talon attacks. You know, that's nice and all, but definitely not for us. We're going to jump straight into Ajani, Strength of the Pride. 2 white for a 5 loyalty Planeswalker Ajani. +1, you gain life equal to the number of creatures you control plus the number of Planeswalkers you control. -2, create a 2/2 white cat soldier creature token named Ajani's Pridemate. With whenever you gain life, put a +1/+1 counter on Ajani's Pridemate. Literally Ajani's Pridemate, the card. And then it has a 0 ability of if you have at least 15 life more than your starting life total, exile Ajani's Strength of the Pride in each artifact and creature your opponents control. So +1 is gain some life. Fine, we've had that on Ajani's before. Gaining life in Commander should be incidental value, not something that we're truly aiming for. The -2, the Ajani's Pridemate, that's a low impact creature, honestly, in our format, but I would totally pay 4 mana, create an Ajani's Pridemate, rebound, create a Ajani's Pridemate. Because if you have a deck that's built around it, those things can get out of control pretty quickly. So I'm okay with that. And then that ultimate is ultimate. If you're in a life gain deck, you can easily get above that. What is it? 45 life or no, 55 life. It's a little bit, but you can easily get above 55 life. I play against Deloro decks. They get up that high all the time. So this being a one-sided conditional board wipe could be really, really strong. I honestly think that this is a very narrow card, but this is a card that's definitely going to see some play, and it's going to be a slam dunk in a lot of people's decks right now. I'm personally thinking about putting this in an Oathbreaker deck. I shouldn't talk about Oathbreaker content right now, but I actually think this is a great Oathbreaker because what it does is it comes down pretty early and it immediately impacts the board with a very relevant creature, that Ajani's Pridemate. In our format, that's like, it's a little bit of a dinky creature, but in a little bit of a different format, then that creature can get out of control. All right. Okay, Ancestral Blade. I think that this is going to be a fun card, and I actually think it's going to be a sneaky good card in Limited, so you should definitely pick that up. But 2/2s for 2 are definitely not something that we're interested in. Angel of Vitality is the next one I want to point out. It's a 3 CMC 2/2. Okay, but actually it's not that. Angel Vitality is 2 white for a creature angel 2/2 flyer. If you would gain life, you gain that much life +1 instead. And Angel Vitality gets +2/+2 as long as you have 25 or more life. Okay, you're going to have more than 25 life. It's pretty much going to happen. So this is a 3 mana 4/4 flyer that lets you gain a little point of life here and there. I actually think this could fit into some of those life gain decks, and it's going to be an uncommon. It's going to be a budget build in many situations. But again, the body isn't going to be tremendously powerful in our format. But I think that this is going to be good for a lot of different decks. All right. Skipping Angelic Gift, Apostle of Purifying Light, something to just keep in the back of your head. It's 1 and white for a 2/1 human cleric. It has protection from black, and you can pay 2 to exile a target card from a graveyard. Okay. This is something that you really are going to want to run. Let's say you have a humans deck or a clerics deck. You just need something that interacts with the graveyard, and you want it on a body. There's a lot of different cards out there that could be a little bit better, like Scavenging Ooze. But let's say you just need it in white and this is the effect you need. Bam, pick up this card really, really easily. Let's go to Bishop of Wings next. Bishop of Wings is white for a 1/4 human cleric. Whenever an angel enters the battlefield under your control, gain 4 life. Gaining 4 life is a critical threshold for some of those enchantments that produce, you guessed it, more angels. But whenever an angel you control dies, create a 1/1 white spirit creature token with flying. So this is actually very funny, already been broken with Divine Intervention in Standard. So basically, whenever an angel dies, you'll then create another angel, and then you'll gain 4 life. And then sometimes you'll have many of these together, and then suddenly whenever a single creature dies, you just create more angels than you had before. It just becomes real gross. It just becomes real gross. And then also you can break this in other ways too. For example, Sam just mentioned Conspiracy and Xenograph. Yeah, those will combine together too. So Bishop of Wings, I think will be really, really great for janky standard decks. When you have a one of, it's really hard to build a several card combo enabler that's subject to removal in our format, but definitely something that could be really, really fun. Divine Visitation, not Divine Intervention. That's right, Oliver. Thank you. And then Arcane Adaptation is another one that goes with Bishop of Wings super well. This actually could go along with some of those decks that I was talking about before that mess around with creature types a little bit. Morphon, it could be one of them, or Dr. Julius Jumblemore if you're interested in that silver bordered tech. So you could be messing around with creature types a lot and make Bishop of Wings do particularly well. Hello, everyone. All right. Let's talk about the card that I'm most excited about in white. I know normally when I finish each color, I go back and talk about the card that I like the most, but I'm going to just let you know right now, Brought Back is that card. Brought Back is white for an instant. Choose up to 2 target permanent cards in your graveyard that were put there from the battlefield this turn. Return them to the battlefield tapped. Oh my gosh. This is so good, but it's like sneaky good because we've had effects like this before. Second Sunrise was 1 white for an instant. Each player returns to play all artifact, creature, enchantment, and land cards that are put into the graveyard from play this turn. And that didn't really see a lot of play. Like some people played it in combo decks. It was well known for being super gross with eggs in competitive play. Where they just sacrifice all these artifacts for cards and value and then they bring them all back. But I actually think that Brought Back could be used as like white's ability to mana ramp, gain card advantage, and have protection. White oftentimes is very based on the board state. They have a lot of really powerful creatures that could help control the board. They have these big angels and stuff like that. And so we want stuff like Teferi's Protection to protect all of our stuff. Teferi's Protection is like $50 now. Ugh. Okay, but Brought Back and other effects like this can essentially simulate this a little bit where, okay, fine, yeah, you're going to board wipe me, whatever, but I have a little bit of protection to rebuild before all the real damage goes through, And then also you have the ability of like sacrificing your lands. Let's say you strip mine someone and you crack a fetch, boom, Brought Back. You suddenly ramped. That's ramp in white. Which could be very cool. There's also like the ability to, bring back sacrificed Archaeomancer. Like, you know what I mean? Like you sacrifice an Archaeomancer to generate a white mana to a Phyrexian altar. And then you Brought Back, and then you can bring it back again. And when it enters the battlefield, you get your Brought Back. A lot of B's. And then you pair that with anything else with an enter the battlefield effect. Let's say like Venser. So now you're like, a Venser, bounce something, sacrifice it for a white. Archaeomancer, sacrifice it for a white. I'm going to bring them both back with that 2 white. And then Archaeomancer will bring back my brought back again. And so we can see how brought back can really chain together a bunch of gross stuff. And so be a combo enabler, but also be a very fair card too. You're going to see a little bit later down that I'm going to geek out about the new card Lotus Field, which is a land that enters the battlefield tapped. And when it enters the battlefield, you have to sacrifice 2 lands. Bam! You sacrifice those 2 lands, you bring them right back. Then suddenly you're ramping like crazy. So I actually think that Brought Back is my standout white card of the set. And you should definitely pay attention to this card for sure. It's got a lot of play in it. Okay. Cavalier of Dawn is the next one. I think that this is a particularly powerful card, mostly because look at that art. It's like a knight riding like a weird antlered lightning bolt. I love it. Cavalier of Dawn, 2 white for an elemental knight. It's a 4/6 with vigilance. When Cavalier of Dawn enters the battlefield, destroy up to 1 target non-land permanent. Its controller creates a 3/3 colorless golem artifact creature token. When Cavalier of Dawn dies, return target artifact or enchantment card from your graveyard to your hand. So it's a generous gift on a body. By the way, generous gift, 2 and a white to destroy a permanent and create a 3/3. I know it's non-land over there, but basically destroy a permanent. That means that if we're paying full cost for that, we're paying 2 and a white for this generous gift effect, then we're suddenly getting a 4/6 vigilant with another ability for just white. The rate on this is very, very good. The rate is very strong. I also like removal when it comes to white as well, especially that is an exile-based removal, like things like Fiend Hunter, or maybe a good comparison would be like Angel of Sanctions, where it can come down and exile something. But it feels like whenever you have one of those things that come down and exile something, it's just only temporary. Like I know in Limited and other formats, whenever you exile something, it's like gone for a long time and they have to really waste a resource on it. But I feel like in our format, it just gets board wiped away or just incidentally blown up out of nowhere. There's just so much creature removal. I really like it when things are just gone. You know what I mean? Just gone. And so I've actually been interested in playing things like Meteor Golem in mono white over cards like Angel of Sanctions or Fiend Hunter or Banisher Priest or something like that. And so Cavalier of Dawn could be a much more streamlined effect. I love getting rid of something, and a 4/6 Golem is not that bad. Also, if you have a stupid token lying around or something that's, maybe, enchanted or interrupted on your side of the battlefield, boom, blow it up and create a 3/3 color golem of your own. So that's 5 CMC for 7 power and 9 toughness. Oh my gosh, what is white doing? And then the dies effect is pretty good. It's not this directly onto the battlefield that we really want. We really want like Sun Titan effects where it just goes straight onto the battlefield. But do you know what? Just getting that extra little bit of card advantage out of white is really, really good. So Cavalier of Dawn, it's going to go in a lot of white heavy decks. It's going to be a pretty good role player, and it's going to be very good value all the time. And so I think you're going to end up enjoying it very much. Yeah. Oh man, people are talking about the mana pips coming back for Theros block. It's like Return to Theros is coming, and now we need like white because we gotta turn on Heliod again. We gotta get devoted, everyone. I hope so. Okay. Also, like, it's really nice too to have ETBs and dies triggers. And so if you really like that, like you have a Teysa deck or another Enter the Battlefield sort of deck, Cavalier of Dawn could fit really well in those kinds of builds as well. Dawning Angel, Daybreak Chaplain, Devout Decree, Disenchant, Eternal Isolation. All of these are fine. Fencing Ace, Gauntlets of Light. I'm going to mention Gauntlets of Light really quickly. It's 2 and a white for an aura enchant creature. It gets +0/+2 and assigns combat damage equal to its toughness rather than its power, and has 2 and a white untap this creature. Whenever you can pay mana to untap a creature, then that's really good. There are ways to abuse that and to go off. This is not this is not like Freed from the Real or Penman's Aura or like some of the more powerful versions of this in other colors. And so Gauntlets of Light does like a weird impression of both. Maybe you throw this in your Toughness Matters deck, your Doran deck or whatever, and then you just Tree of Perdition people down over and over again or something like that. But basically Gauntlets of Light could go in with a combo strategy or Toughness Matters strategy. It could go in pretty well. Oh my gosh, I just got called a beautiful human. Thank you so much. That makes me feel very good on a Monday. You guys are so sweet. All right. Let's keep going because we've got lots and lots of good stuff to talk about in this set. We're unfortunately going to skip these Griffins and we're going to go down to Hanged Executioner, which I'm a little bit on the edge of, and maybe you guys can convince me that it's pretty good. Hanged Executioner is 2 and a white for a 1/1 spirit with flying. When Hanged Executioner enters the battlefield, create a 1/1 white spirit token, creature token with flying. So 2 1/1 flying bodies for 3 at sorcery speed. We've seen this before, and some people play these kinds of cards. It also has an additional effect: exile Hanged Executioner, exile target creature. It's 4 mana to be able to do this, and I feel like, I don't know, maybe I'm wrong, but it just feels like really overcosted. Maybe it goes in these spirit decks. I don't know. Yes, I will be going back and picking out the art that I want the most and the thing I want as a pet or to live in my house with me. That's definitely what I want. Basically, with Hanged Executioner, I would rather have a lot of other different cards to be able to get rid of something, but maybe in a Spirits deck. Not going to spend too much time on this, but people are talking about it being good, and I just felt like it was a little bit underwhelming. Okay, we're going to go on to Leyline of Sanctity. It's just good to note that it's there. It exists. It's not really that strong in our format, but look at that beautiful art. Look at that beautiful art. It's wonderful. Okay, now let's talk about something that could be particularly powerful in our format, which is Loxodon Life Chanter, mostly because it's an elephant. Yeah. Okay. 5 and a white, 6 CMC for a 4/6 elephant cleric. When Loxodon Life Chanter enters the battlefield, you may have your life total become the total toughness of creatures you control. I like that. I like this huge amount of gaining life. Just like, oh, I have a big board now. I have big life too. And for 5 and a white, Loxodon Life Chanter enters, for 5 and a white, Loxodon Life Chanter gets +X until end of turn, where X is your life total. So if you have 12 mana, you can play Loxodon Life Chanter, okay? And then with the trigger on the stack, activate it, and then you'll gain 6 life. You can also pair this with decks like Arcades the Strategist, or again, this Toughness Matters strategy of Doran the Siege Tower, or others. They're giving us a lot of really great Toughness Matters cards, or things like Panharmonicon, giving us double triggers and stuff like that. It's just kind of like a fun life gain card. I actually really like it, but it's definitely not going to be huge for our format. You know what I mean? Like this isn't going to come down and like change the game. You're going to rarely see this. And when you do, you're going to be like, oh, it's kind of fun. Yeah. Let's see here. Loxodon Lifecrafter, Loyal Pegasus, Master Splicer. Always, by the way, for limited, always note there's a pacifism effect in the format, and you can always note that, look, there's a Planar Cleansing. So there's a board wipe at rare in the format. Planar Cleansing, by the way, really great for our format. It's good to have things like this be very, very cheap, and I have a feeling Planar Cleansing will be like, I don't know, 10 cents or something like that. So it'll be really great. Okay, moving on. Just making sure I don't miss anything. Okay, Rule of Law is another reprint, and if you are playing in a white deck that really wants to punish your opponents, Rule of Law can be super duper gross. It's 2 and a white for an enchantment. Each player can't cast more than 1 spell each turn. this can be brutal for some decks. Some decks actually can't overcome it, and usually it messes with the combo heavy decks that just need to cast more than one thing. So you play Rule of Law, and you're just going to be like, I'm going to play a creature every turn. Bloop, bloop, bloop. And then everyone else is like trying to chain together cantrips or really put stuff together, and they can't do anything. So if you want a particularly mean card that's going to be very cheap now, coming in and being an uncommon right there, you can pick up Rule of Law. It's the rule is if you're playing very fair Magic, like being in mono white and playing fair Magic, then you can make other people play fair Magic too. Hello, fine people. Let's go up and check out that pacifism art. Mark, good call. Good call scrolling back up for the pacifism art. I love it. He's definitely, yeah. He's like little crocheting giant. I like that. All right. Let's get back into it with a very, very kick-ass angel. Sephara. Sephara. Sorry, that sounds like the makeup thing. Okay. Sephara Sky's Blade. 4 white for a 7/7 angel. With flying and lifelink. You may pay white and tap 4 untapped creatures you control with flying rather than pay the spell's mana cost. Other creatures you control with flying have indestructible. I am very, very excited about Sephara Sky's Blade, but here's the thing. I don't think it's as good as a lot of people are saying it is. They're looking at the alternate casting cost, and they're putting a lot of expectations on it. It's very hard to have 4 flying creatures. Even if you have a dedicated sort of flyers tokens deck, like it can still be very hard. Don't get me wrong. She's still very good, but I don't want her to be like a $10 good card. Some cards that'll get Sephara out really quickly will be like Amira Angel. That's for 2 white for a 3/3 flyer, landfall, create a flying bird. So that means that on 4 you can have a flyer, and then you can start having landfall triggers and creating more and more flyers. Migratory Route puts 4 flyers onto the battlefield. That's 5 CMC. Battle Screech puts 4 flyers onto the battlefield, and that's 4 CMC. So that's has me feeling that Sephara Sky's Blade will come out on turn 5 or turn 6 maybe. And that's, don't get me wrong, that's very good. That's very good for a 7/7 flying lifelink. Other creatures get indestructible. Just people are comparing them to her to Avacyn, and she's not Avacyn. She's not. I'm sorry. She is not Avacyn, but still very good, and I want her to be $4. That's what I want. I want her to be $4, and I want you to put her in Asperia flyers, budget blue-white flyers with all the flyers and all the tokens and stuff like that. I think that it'd be really, 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 really cool. I'm also a little bit annoyed that she doesn't have indestructible, but that was where Avacyn got a little bit oppressive. I had Avacyn decks that just like were, just wiped the board, just destroyed everything and all sorts of stuff. You know what? She does have 4 magic swords floating around her, and those are for the 4 creatures that get tapped to like summon her. I like that. That's pretty good. Good. I want her to be cheap. But see, there was so much hype around her, and people were very fixated on getting her out very fast. And just really, if you build your deck to get her out super fast, like 1-drop Angels or like Hope of Europe, like if you build your deck to get her out super, super fast, then your deck is by design just not as good. And so really don't do that. Instead, play some powerful cards that have flying, and then just use this as a way to sort of get her out even earlier. You know what I mean? On turn 5, you play a couple other really good flyers, and then bam, just get her out and do like a really good job. And people are calling $1. Okay, good. I want her to be at $1. Let's see. I'm gonna see. I'm gonna see what she is going for right now. Oh no, she's only $2.50 pre-sale. That's good. Okay, she's gonna be cheap. I can tell. All right. The next one we have is Starfield Mystic. Starfield Mystic is 1 and a white for a 2/2 human cleric. Enchantment spells you cast cost 1 less to cast. And whenever an enchantment you control is put into a graveyard from the battlefield, put a +1/+1 counter on Starfield Mystic. The easiest comparison to this is Herald of the Pantheon. It's 1 and a green for a 2/2. Enchantment spells you cast cost 1 less to cast. Ultimately, these mana reducers, I don't like them as much as in Enchantress as the actual Enchantresses. I actually think that this might be a little bit of a trap. You want the Enchantresses, like the Eidolon of Blossoms and stuff like, and Mesa Enchantress and stuff like that, because those are the ones that facilitate the engine of drawing all those cards, and it's what you really need. You don't honestly need that many mana reducers in that format, and what you're doing is you're diluting your enchantment count when you're including cards like this. I think you need to be very careful about Starfield Mystic in these kinds of decks, and just take that as you're building, and remember that whenever you include cards like this, you are diluting your enchantment count. Okay. And then we have reached the end of white. I feel like I'm really going along here, that I'm being very efficient with my time now. I'm going to go back and tell you about the card that I'm most excited about, the card that I want, the creature that I want living with me. I was thinking at first about having flaming taloned birds. But no, I do not. The card that's art I'm most excited about is this Leyline of Sanctity. I really like it, and especially when you zoom in on it. I'm not going to mess everything up by zooming in on it, but it just looks pretty. It just looks pretty, and I like the distortion of it. I think it's beautiful. The card I'm most excited about is Brought Back. Brought Back is definitely what I'm most excited about. And then the pet that I want is a lightning elk. I want a lightning elk very badly to have just chilling, you know what I mean? Just like almost if I were to not live in Los Angeles, and if I had like some grazing land and I'm just got like an emu and like a reindeer and then like a lightning elk. Excuse my dogs. Someone's home. We're gonna take a break before we go on to blue. By the way, the Yoke Dox is very cute as well. I would totally take that Yoke Dox home right there. Okay. Let's get to talking about blue. And the first card I want to talk about is Agent of Treachery. I like this a lot. Okay, Agent of Treachery is 5 blue for a 2/3 human rogue. When Agent of Treachery enters the battlefield, gain control of target permanent. At the beginning of your end step, if you control 3 or more permanents you don't own, draw 3 cards. So this has a few hoops that you need to jump through, but this could theoretically be steal something, get a 2/3, draw 3 cards. Oh my gosh. This goes perfectly in tons of stealing decks. You have cards that steal really efficiently, like Gilded Drake. Gilded Drake is 1 and a blue for a 3/3 flyer that when it enters the battlefield, you can switch it with your opponent's creature. So that means they're going to have your Gilded Drake and you're going to have something of theirs, a creature of theirs. It's on the reserve list though and is getting up there in price. One cheaper way that you can start stealing things is Puka's Mischief. 3 and a blue for an enchantment at the beginning of your upkeep. You may exchange control of target non-land permanent you control and target non-land permanent and opponent controls with equal or lesser converted mana cost. And then, of course, there's things just like Blatant Thievery. Steal, steal, steal. All 3 things. And then you play Agent of Treachery. You steal 1 more thing, and you have the potential of drawing 3 cards. I love it. I love it so much. I want to remake my Brago deck and blink this every turn. I want to get Deadeye Navigators in a rune deck and just take this in and out of the battlefield and just start stealing stuff. I also like that you can just steal lands too. Just gain control of target. Yep. Take your land. You're down a land drop. It's mine now. And yes, this is 100% going into my Braids deck. People are mentioning one of my favorite Braids decks. Yeah, I am so happy about putting this into my Braids deck. And there's another card that belongs in my Braids deck that I'm going to be talking about in the set review too. Isn't it particularly nice when you have that deck? So like I mentioned that there's a lot of tech for blue-white flyers or something like that. And if you have that deck, you're just like, oh, it's amazing. Just like Modern Horizons, if any of you had a Yuriko deck, like a Ninja's deck, you guys are just freaking out so much more than everyone else. And so it's particularly nice when you see cool steal effects going into here. So if you have a deck that messes with your opponents, that steals stuff, then this is going to be perfect for you. Oh yeah, good in Aminatou, good in Animar. Now, to be fair, this is still a 7-drop. You know what I mean? So ultimately, but one thing that's really good is that when it does enter the battlefield, you gain control of that permanent. You know, that's yours now. It's not like it's a Sower of Temptation where you have to keep the Sower around to keep the thing that you stole. So it has some built-in defense to it a little bit, but ultimately you're playing more of a fun game when you're playing 7 drops rather than playing competitive games. But fun games are the kinds of games I'm playing with Magic. And then that leads me to what I think is one of the most fun cards that they've put in this set. Atemsis? I'm going to go with Atemsis. Atemsis All-Seeing. 3 blue for a legendary 4/5 Sphinx. Atemsis has flying, and for 2 and a blue, you can tap him and draw 2 cards, then discard a card. Whenever Atemsis All-Seeking deals damage to an opponent, you may reveal your hand. If cards with at least 6 different converted mana costs are revealed this way, that player loses the game. This is more like a challenge than an actually good card, because Atemsis. Okay, this is more of a challenge than like a card that you can easily enable. Getting 6 different converted mana costs is very hard. It's so hard. I did a little bit of like practicing with normal decks, and like even when when I have decks that really churn through and I can sculpt it a little bit better, man, it was so hard to get 6 different converted mana costs. What I'm excited about is just having this as just a random beater in your deck, just because it's goofy and maybe it's got a little bit of a draw effect, and then just barely being able to pull it off. I love the idea of like, okay, I'm going to hit you, trigger on the stack, I'm going to Sphinx's Rev for 5 and just hope. Or other cards that go along with it really well. How about like Firemind's Foresight? It's 5 blue and a red, and you can search your library for an instant with converted mana cost 3, 2, and 1. And so that means you can cast Firemind's Foresight at instant speed and get 3 different converted mana costs. How about a card like Seasons Past, 4 green for a sorcery, where you can return any number of cards in your graveyard. They just have to be different converted mana costs. And so you could theoretically just return a bunch of stuff of different costs. And then what do people do? Do they just like, they have to answer this stupid Sphinx? I love it. By the way, this also doesn't say combat damage, so you could like equip up like a Viridian Longbow or something like that and start pinging people and having them all scared about what's in your hand. Oh my gosh, I love it so much. It's not good though. It's not good. I'm sorry. Are there Alhammer's Archive, Blade of... Oh yeah. A lot of people are like Blade of Selves. Does Blade of Selves not work? That's too bad. Anyways, Helm of Selves, Helm of the Host. I do not think this is very good, but when you kill someone with it, it's just like there should be just like a boo, achievement unlocked, like plaque that you get, which means that Commander players are going to do it because we love that stuff. I love that stuff. Okay. Going on, we have totally normal stuff. Going on to Cavalier of Gales. Cavalier of Gales is 2 blue for a 5/5 flying elemental knight. When Cavalier of Gales enters the battlefield, draw 3 cards, then put 2 cards from your hand on top of your library in any order. When Cavalier of Gales dies, shuffle it into its owner's library, then scry 2. All right. This is Brainstorm stuck on to a 5/5 flyer for 5. Yes, yes. Uh, Ultimately, this is more of a beater than we need in this format. You know, it's really carried by its stats, being a 5/5 flyer for 5. Brainstorm is something that we like to have. It's good that it can draw a card, you know, essentially on this. Like, that's pretty good. But really, the body is what makes this really, really relevant because we have so much good card draw in blue. I have a feeling this could go in a ton of different decks and elementals. You just have to be really committed to blue. And ultimately, all the card manipulation, the deck manipulation, it just means that this is a good value card, not really anything that's super powerful that we're interested in our format. You know what I mean? Like, you know, blink this. Sure. You know, throw it in your Brago deck. It'll fit in really nicely. You're never going to be unhappy to draw 5/5 flyer for 5 that brainstorms you. But it's also not going to be a degenerate combo enabler. Okay. Brainstorm. You get to brainstorm for 5. What a deal. It's just one more than your brainstorm with your Jace the Mind Sculptor. Okay. Let's go down here to Drawn from Dreams. 2 blue. Look at the top 7 cards of your library. Put 2 of them into your hand and the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. So this has us feeling like Dig Through Time. Dig Through Time is an instant and can sometimes cost way less. Actually, the closer comparison is a card called Ancestral Memories, which was 2 blue. Look at the top 7 cards, put 2 of them into your hand and the rest into your graveyard. Okay, but 5 mana for drawing 2 cards, even though you have great selection, just wasn't enough to push it over into our deck. Like, I had to look up Ancestral Memories. Like, I had a vague memory of it. Not really I never saw that card being played. And so just reducing that mana by 1, I think will definitely start making this a very playable card. I think Dig Through Time, the strength of it is that it's at instant speed. But one thing that we talk about a lot of the times in Commander is that you need card draw. Okay, and you also need sort of card selection when you're putting together certain decks. That's why people a lot of times will rely heavily on tutors. Well, Drawn from Dreams and Dig Through Time, they kind of function a little bit more like a tutor than you would think, even though they're not exactly like that, because they go so deep into your deck. They really give you card selection, especially when you're building a singleton deck that has some redundancy built in. And so Drawn from Dreams and Dig Through Time, they're going to feel more like a draw 2 in a constructed deck than really a draw 2 in a commander deck. Like commander decks, if you're just drawing 2, it feels like you're just, you know, oh, I'm just getting card advantage, whatever. Whereas you're actually going to get the type of effect you want when you play Drawn from Dreams. So I think that's a really important thing. Yeah, for sure. People are talking about like copying this, playing it in Mizzix. Like, yeah, wherever you would want to play Dig Through Time, Drawn from Dreams will be a really good fit. Dungeon Geist reprint. Well, I don't actually like Dungeon Geist very much. Okay. Remember, I don't like effects that basically when you kill the creature, like the effect ends, because creatures die all the time. All right. Next comes Flood of Tears. Yes. Flood of Tears is 4 blue for a sorcery that says return all non-land permanents to their owner's hands. If you return 4 or more non-token permanents you control this way, you may put a permanent card from your hand onto the battlefield. Okay. This is exactly what I want. I'm actually in recent times trying to pull away from using Cyclonic Rift. I feel like everyone groans whenever I play it. And I groan when other people play it too. It is very good. And I don't fault you for playing it, just I might let out an involuntary or like a rift. You know what I mean? Like that's kind of the feeling, and that's not the feeling I want to have when I'm playing Magic. And so if I can get that similar effect at a little bit of a lower power level, a little bit different, then I would love to play that. I love playing Evacuation, and so Flood of Tears is very good. So I love returning everything to your hand. Boom, everything gone. It's this board wipe in blue, and then you get to play something, and then you have the ability to cheat mana costs like crazy. So this can just put anything onto the battlefield. I love that it's a permanent, so you can throw Omniscience onto the battlefield, or a Mindslaver, or some big Eldrazi doing stuff. This is not Cyclonic Rift at all, but it's just a little taste of what could maybe be just a tiny replacement. Because if you think about what was the closest thing to Cyclonic Rift, there wasn't any. Like, what was the next closest thing? Flood of Tears kind of has me thinking of like a surged Crush of Tentacles. Crush of Tentacles was 4 blue, it returns everything. But if you surge it, if you played another spell before that, you can get a big old octopus onto the battlefield. Okay. So really the difference between like Crush of Tentacles and Cyclonic Rift, like the difference is so big. So I really like the idea of Flood of Tears moving closer to Cyclonic Rift while not being Cyclonic Rift. And yes, someone is pointing out very specifically that Flood of Tears goes in my Braids deck super well, and that might also be another reason why I'm excited about its inclusion here. Also, by the way, if you ever are playing, I saw Noyandar scrolling up. I had a Noyandar deck, and I actually still have a Noyandar deck. I just haven't played it very much. If you do have a Noyandar deck, it's super good in Noyandar. I think that you will particularly like it in that deck as well. So Flood of Tears, really solid. Lets you cheat mana cost, lets you control the board in blue without setting yourself back a tremendous amount. You're gonna love playing it, and it's gonna feel more fair than Cyclonic Rift, and you're not gonna get all these like groans that you normally might get. By the way, people are talking about turn 6 Cyclonic or turn 6 Omniscience. I think that you need to bounce 4 permanents back to your hand. So you're going to be playing Mana Rocks, Soul Rings, and all of these Mana Crypts and all sorts of good stuff. So really, you're going to ramp out Flood of Tears, then return 4 artifacts, and then play Omniscience, and then play everything else. That's what's gonna happen right there. Okay. Let's move forward to Crabby Bro. Blue's going to be tough for finding a pet because this Fortress Crab just looks so adorable. And then Frostlinks. No, that cat's just going to like... Could you imagine if like you had the disposition of just the average house cat, but then gave it the power to like freeze things horribly? Yeah, you'd just be miserable all the time. Okay, reprint time, Leyline of Anticipation. 2 blue for an enchantment. If Leyline of Anticipation is in your opening hand, you may begin the game with it on the battlefield. You may cast spells as though they had flash. Maybe now's the time that we get into an argument about how good Vidalcan Ori is or isn't, and how good Leyline of Anticipation is or isn't. I think it's good. I do. I think it's very good. Being able to change your seat at the table, being able to be reactive rather than active is very powerful in our format. Josh has talked about it like being in poker. You have the power of position in poker is something that everyone accepts in other games. But in Magic, like it seems like we have a little bit of, maybe our game is a little bit too complicated for us to acknowledge sort of the power that is position. And Leyline of Anticipation and Vidalcan Ori give us that power. And so people that play with it, especially in longer games, when you can realize the advantage of play position, we'll see how good this is. But here's the thing. If you're in a shorter game, if you play Leyline of Anticipation on turn 4 and the game ends on turn 6, then you've only had 2 turns of your play position. That doesn't give you enough advantage to take turn 4 off. But the average Commander game is going way longer than turn 4 or turn 5 or turn 6. They're going up into the, nearing the double digits in many situations. And so Leyline of Anticipation is very good. Vidalcan Ori is very good. It doesn't belong in every deck, but you're going to actually be happy playing it. Does anyone want to fight me? Is this what's going best Leyline in EDH. Yes. Yes. Definitely beats out Leyline of the Meek. Let's see here. Oh man, use Leyline to flash out Flood of Tears. We've done it. We've broken Commander, everyone. Okay. Leyline Ori. You don't, by the way, you don't have to put it in every deck and it doesn't belong in every single playgroup, but it fits into a lot more than people think, and it's kind of become a little bit of a soapbox for Josh. I'm glad that it's not my soapbox, that everyone tries to fight Josh on commander damage in Leyline of Anticipation / Vidalcan Ori. But you know, I'm not going to be the one that's going to argue with him. I think it's really good. Yep. Good stuff. Okay. No one's like, there isn't this mass exodus from my stream when I'm making these like bold claims that Leyline of Anticipation is good. I need a signature card. If I need a signature card, I think I'd pick like a derpy card. I don't know what it would be. Maybe it'd be like a win. Do you know what it would be? It would be like a you win the game card. Do you know what I would want it to be? I want do you know what I really like is I like Biovisionary. I really wish that Biovisionary was like that. I got to spoil that card and that was like my go-to card, because I really do love that card. But then again, there's a lot of other stuff. Generous Gift I would love Generous Gift as my spell. That would be very nice. my go-to card is Fortress Crab. Yeah, I like that. All right. Masterful Replication. Masterful Replication is 5 and a blue for an instant. Choose one. Create 2 3/3 colorless golem artifact creature tokens, or choose target artifact you control. Each other artifact you control becomes a copy of that artifact until end of turn. All right. Masterful Replication is something that can definitely be broken. Being at 6 mana means that it's much safer. The ways that I think it could be broken is with cards like Mechanized Production, or in like a Brutaclad deck, or in with like a Saheeli deck, the new Saheeli, where you can sort of copy another artifact, because you could theoretically have a board full of Wormcoil Engines, or what I really want to see is a board full of Sharding Sphinxes. Sharding Sphinx is a 6 mana artifact creature Sphinx, and whenever an artifact creature you control deals combat damage to a player, you may create a 1/1 blue artifact Thopter, little thop going on. So I think it'd be really funny to like, hey, you have a Sharding Sphinx already going, you're creating a bunch of Thopters, and then you just make like a big old engine of like all Sharding Sphinxes. Mechanized Production is the one where you win the game if you control 8 or more of a thing. And so with the trigger on the stack, you can basically Masterful Replication and boom, make all your artifacts into the artifact that you want them to be, and bam, you got it. And I'm positive you can combo off with this. If you like copy an Aetherflux Reservoir or something like that, then suddenly, you know, every spell you can trip into generates you tons and tons of life, and then you just start shooting people. So a lot of good stuff going on here. I'll be taking, so one thing is that if you have a specific question, I'll be taking questions at the end of the stream. And if you have very complicated questions, then shooting me an email would probably be the best idea, or I guess maybe something else on, yes. Are you guys playing the Sharding Sphinx, made famous by Commander's Brew, who couldn't talk about Sharding Sphinx without like just breaking down into like laughter, because this stream is filled with young. Yep, everyone. Yeah. Okay. Moving on. We got moat piranhas. Nope, not talking about moat piranhas, but look at them. Come on, moat piranhas. Just imagine if you were like, oh, I'm going to create like a moat and I'm going to fill it with piranhas. Like, who are you? You're like some super villain that's from a cartoon show. You're not even like a real super villain. If you're filling your moat full of piranhas, you're like either an 8-year-old or just like a cartoon supervillain. It's ridiculous. Okay. Yeah, exactly. When we can't get past sharding Sphinx, it's just quality YouTube content right there. Okay. Moo Yang Ling Sky Dancer is 1 blue for a 2 loyalty legendary planeswalker. You can +2 until your next turn. Up to 1 target creature gets -2/-0 and loses flying. You can -3 to create a 4/4 blue elemental bird creature token with flying. And -8, you get an emblem with islands you control have tap, draw a card. Okay. I honestly think that Moo Yang Ling is going to make it into standard, that it's actually going to be quite good. 3 mana planeswalkers are very powerful, and this protects itself with a plus ability and gets up to 4 loyalty. So it's not as good as 3 Fairy or Liliana the Veil or any of these other 3 planeswalkers, or even 3 mana Narset. Those are all very, very good cards, but 3 mana planeswalkers are something we have to be very aware of. And I think that Moo Yang Ling actually reaches that threshold of good enough. Yeah. So I don't think it's going to reach the price point that we want it to be. Because here's what I want it to be. I want you to just throw it in your Flyers deck. I want it to be like a couple bucks, and you throw it in your Flyers deck, and you're like, oh, cool, or your Birds deck or something like that. And then you start creating 4/4s, and people don't attack it because it's not that big of a deal. You're never going to get to the ultimate. If you get close to the ultimate, people should attack you. And it's just like a fun planeswalker, but it's not going to get there. It's almost like Sarah the Benevolent. Sarah the Benevolent, I want it to be a $5 planeswalker, and you get to like make Sarah Angels, and I think it's going to be fun and goes in the Flyers deck, but yeah. But they're not. They're too good, and then you basically don't get to play them in your budget decks. And if you do open it, well, it's better in another format, so you should sell that and buy like 10 Moat Piranhas. Okay. Octo Prophet. I think what they've done here is core set allows them to be a little bit goofier than they normally are, because there's some weird cards in here, like goofy things, and Octo Prophet is definitely one of them. Oh my gosh, is she... Hang on. How much is... I'm going to see how much this is. Oh, Moo Yang Ling is like $15 right now. It's too much. Okay. Octo Prophet is 3 and a blue for a 3/3. When it enters the battlefield, scry 2. I included this because it was a funny name and had an octopus. And remember, if you're playing Sea Monster Tribal and you have that board wipe that bounces everything but serpents, octopuses, and and other watery beings, then this is a slam dunk for that deck. We're moving on. We're moving on for me to talk about Portal of Sanctuary and how I really, really want this to be good, and it's not. Portal of Sanctuary, 2 and a blue for an artifact, 1 tap, return target creature you control, and each aura attached to it to their owner's hands. This is almost amazing. And then there's this one little line of text that says, activate this ability only during your turn. And then you slump down and feel horrible about this card. This is just a reminder that Portal of Sanctuary is bad and Crystal Shard is very good. Crystal Shard is 3 generic mana for an artifact that reads 3 tap or blue tap, return target creature to its owner's hand unless its controller pays 1. So that just means blue tap, you can return whatever creature you want. You don't get the cool aura thing that Portal of Sanctuary does, but it's at instant speeds. You can save your stuff. You can do it in response to other things. You can punish your opponents too for tapping out a mana. So your opponents kind of have to keep 1 or 2 mana up at any point in time. It's really great. So play with Crystal Shard. That's just a friendly reminder when you look at Portal of Sanctuary and you realize that it's not good. I think that Scholar of Ages is like 7 mana is ridiculous, but maybe if you have an Anala deck, you could do something. 5 blue for a 3/3. When Scholar of Ages enters the battlefield, return up to 2 target instant sorcery cards from your graveyard to your hand. Whenever you can return 2 things, it actually is combo potential. because one of them blinks the Scholar of Ages and the other one gives you the advantage. So you basically do the things, you can easily basically generate a loop with Scholar of Ages. And so just be aware that there's combo potential there, but 7 mana means that you're not going to be really breaking it too much. Okay. Tail's End. Did you know that Tail's End was the Jumbo Commander preview card for Core 2020? I talked about Tail's End for a little bit, but how did you guys like it? Are you feeling like you're just going to play Disallow and you're not going to play Tail's End? Does Tail's End fit into your meta? Tell me what you think, and I want to get some feedback about Tail's End because I was torn. I think that my meta is like right on the edge of it being useful, because that 1 mana is like a really critical point for me. But I mean, I have Disallow in a bunch of decks, and it's not like I'm gonna cut it for this. You know what I mean? Let me just renew my caffeine intake as I read your guys' wonderful comments. I like how people like the art and like the sort of the flavor of the like the flavor text and like Tazri up there, getting their story ended right there. But a lot of other people are like, I don't know if it's the right sort of counterspell for me. And I don't think it's the right counterspell for most people out there. I think it's very cool, and I think that the more competitive you get, the more this could actually be a counterspell for you. But if you open it up and you have a deck that fits into it, like let's say you have a pretty tuned Baral deck, heck, I'd pay that. Like if you had Baral out and suddenly this is 1 blue mana, rather than the blue that Disallow makes you use for like Baral, yeah, like I could see that happening for sure. All right. Tail's End. I'm really happy that Wizards gave me this card because it definitely like was like a little bit of like a you know what I mean? Like, because some of them that you get, it's like, oh man, I know exactly what this card is for. My last one was Springbloom Druid. It's like, oh, like this is for fixing and it's for these ramping decks. Awesome. You know what I mean? It's like kind of like you know exactly what decks you're going to slam it into. And Tail's End is like a little bit more to chew on. You know what I mean? All right. Warden of Evo Sile, Flyers deck. It's a reprint. This spell costs 1 less to cast. If you control a creature with flying, draw 2 cards. Oh my gosh, 2 mana, draw 2 cards. It's actually, by the way, not that bad. Like Charter Course, I think is a totally fine inclusion in a lot of different decks. And so if you have a Flyers deck, like Winged Words is fine. It's 1 and a blue, draw 2 cards. Yeah. And that is it for blue. All right. We're down to the cards that I am most excited about. And I think it's close. I think it's actually very close for the card that I'm most excited about because it's 2 of them. Agent of Treachery and Flood of Tears. And I have to say that it lands on Flood of Tears. Flood of Tears is the card I'm most excited about. I think that you're going to see this at a lot of different commander tables. I don't think you're surprised, by the way. You're not like, really, Flood of Tears? Are you serious? No, you're going to see it all over the place. And so it's a very boring pick. But the real... Okay, art, by the way. Favorite art of the blue is Drawn from Dreams. Look at that. Isn't that amazing? I just love the fish that go around and the perspective that it has, and the colors, like it's just great. And then you guys want my pet to be the Fortress Crab. It's got dead eyes. Like I don't think that my pet can be the Fortress Crab when if you go up here you have Icy Elk. I mean, you go up, seriously, there's a lot of cute things in this section. Like first off, it's a Majestic Sphinx, but no, not that cute. But look at this. We got a Boreal Elemental. We got like an Elk Elemental going on here. We've got another like Elemental Pegasus. We got like a little flying Drakey thing. And then there's the Octopus. Okay, so Fortress Crab, sure. But then we go down and there's a Piranha. Come on. But you don't want like this Octo Prophet chilling with you? Come on. That would be amazing. Little bird. All right, you guys are right. Fortress Crab. My choice for lovable pet of mono blue. Fortress Crab, you're awesome. Get in my high alert deck. Okay, yeah, I want you're right, everyone's right. I want the crab. Unbreakable and unappetizing. The crab grows uninterrupted, sometimes to the size of a cottage and beyond. What have I done? My little cottage behind me cannot sustain the fortress crab. And then I'll move in with the crab. I don't need a little house. I can make a crab house. Lovely. All right. Let's go on to black. All right. These I'm not very, very excited about. Same thing with all of these. Blight Beetle's interesting, but again, I'm not excited until we get to the uncommon Blood for Bones. Okay. Again, Seb McKinnon doing some amazing art. But Blood for Bones is 3 and a black for a sorcery. As an additional cost to cast a spell, sacrifice a creature. Return a creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield, then return another creature card from your graveyard to your hand. So this gets 2 creatures back. I really like that it goes straight onto the battle. Excuse me. I really like that it goes straight onto the battlefield. This is not some like crazy goes in every deck, but Victimize is a card. Victimize brings 2 creatures from your graveyard back onto the battlefield, and it's 3 CMC. This one can definitely go in a lot of decks that are designed to kind of churn through your deck. And there's one critical piece in this that I think kind of brings it over the edge, because mostly this is underwhelming. Okay. But one thing that just makes it a little bit more interesting is that it doesn't target, because you just return a creature from your graveyard to the battlefield, then return another creature. So basically you can get back the creature that you sacrifice. Okay. So if you have a creature that's like based on enter the battlefield effects, like Gauntlets or something like that, then you can use it to cast Blood for Bones, and you can bring it back to the battlefield or bring it back to your hand. That actually is very good. In black, I often do want to like flicker things or get added value out of something. And so the ability to just kind of get something off the battlefield and back onto it again is very good, or back to your hand again. And it really goes along with a lot of these types of strategies in black. And so I think that it's surprisingly good. Yeah, you can return the creature you sacrifice because it does not target. I hope I'm not wrong, but I think I'm right. Yeah, people are talking about a lot of different decks. Yeah, see, because it goes along with the graveyard. It goes along with black's great under the battlefield effects, and really black's limited in this area. So, yeah. So I think that this is a sleeper. Dogs. We'll just take a break. Take a break while the dogs bark. What a refreshing dog bark break. All right. I didn't look at Blood-Soaked Altar. Let me read it now. 4 black for an artifact, pay 2 life, discard a card, sacrifice a creature, create a 5/5. Nope. Okay, let's see. That's why I need to trust my own instincts, that I already looked at the cards that I want to talk about. Bloodthirsty Aerialist. 1 black for a 2/3 vampire rogue with flying. Whenever you gain life, put a +1/+1 counter on Bloodthirsty Aerialist. Okay. So if you are in a life gain deck, we talked about a Johnny's Pridemate being an underwhelming card, but this has flying. You know what I mean? So this could be something. But remember, like, we're in Commander, so we have access to crazy powerful cards. This is fine, but we have access to cards like Archangel of Thune, which whenever you gain a life, put a +1/+1 counter on each creature you can, on all of them. You know what I mean? Anthem everything. So yeah, this is fine for some strategies, but you're definitely playing on a lower end of the power level right there. People are talking about vampires. Yeah, vampires are awesome. So definitely want some vampires right there. Okay. All right. Ooh, Cavalier of Night. I'm excited about this one. Cavalier of Night is 2 black for a 4/5 lifelinking elemental knight. When Cavalier of Night enters the battlefield, you may sacrifice another creature. When you do, destroy target creature an opponent controls. When Cavalier of Night dies, return target creature card with converted mana cost 3 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. Okay, so this is one thing that we can compare this to is like a Fleshbag Marauder or other edict effects. You know, Fleshbag Marauder enters the battlefield, everyone has to sacrifice a creature. This is kind of the same thing. It gets a little bit more flexible, but remember, it's not just like kill a thing. You do have to sacrifice something of your own to reach out and kill something. So it's better than that universal edict effect, but you have to remember that you are sacrificing something that you own. So it's not just like instant value. That dies ability, though, is a lot of value. I love that you return things to the battlefield. That's what I'm looking for in these types of cards. And so I think that this is going to be really solid in a lot of decks. You know, I like that. I like it a lot. I especially like it because you curve into this at 5. And as you curve into this at 5, you sacrifice some incidentally dumb small creature. You know what I mean? And then you can bring it back immediately when Cavalier of Night dies. So you're almost guaranteed to have something in your graveyard already. Bone splinters? No, this is the ugliest pet I would have ever had in my... No. This looks horrible. Okay, Bone Splinters looks like what happened if like Toucan Sam just like got put to work in Chernobyl. Like that's what Bone Splinters looks like. And I can't, no, absolutely not. Definitely not happening in my house. And then there's got to be something. Look at this Blight Beetle is for sure going to be like the cute thing in my house for sure. Bone Splinters, creepy thing. No. Blight Beetle. Look at him. Okay, moving on. Dread Presence. 3 and a black for a 3/3 creature nightmare. Whenever a swamp enters the battlefield under your control, choose 1. You draw a card and you lose 1 life. Dread Presence deals 2 damage to any target and you gain 2 life. Okay. So I like this card a lot, but I'm annoyed that it's a creature. I really wish that this was an enchantment or something a little bit more robust, because really, it's not the card advantage we really want because it's tied to landfall essentially. Okay, landfall is nice and all. You know, there are landfall decks out there, but landfall, draw a card and lose life. It's not though. Like Tatyova is very good, but Tatyova is draw a card, gain a life, and it's on any land. This is just on swamps. Okay, landfall, drain someone is awesome too. You know, Polluted Bonds is a favorite card of mine. You know, and I know that's like reversed, but you know, it's a very cool card. Obnixilis, the old one that can drain your opponents when you have landfall. Again, like a really cool card. Just Dread Presence, it limits you in needing swamps and it limits you in being a creature. And so I'm still going to play it. I'm still going to play it. I think it's fine. I think that it's good, but if you want card draw, you want it to be more reliable. And if you want a win condition, again, like you want it more robust. And so this is going to be playing the mid-range in between both of those. And so there's going to be games when this is just gross and you're just drawing, you know, it's a hill giant that draws you 4 cards. Great. It's a hill giant that, you know, drains your opponents out, you know, and you gain some life. I think the one saving grace is that it does 2 damage to any target. So the ability to play a swamp and then pick off an incidental creature, like I'm going to pick off your Deathrite Shaman or I'm going to finish off that other creature. That's where I think Dead Presence distinguishes itself from a lot of other cards out there. Okay, next we have Embodiment of Agonies. 1 black for a 0/0 demon with flying and death touch. Death touch doesn't do you any good if you have no power, demon. Embodiment of Agonies enters the battlefield with a +1/+1 counter on it for each different mana cost among non-land cards in your graveyard. For example, 2 and a black and 1 black are different mana costs. I love that they're exploring different ways of interacting with the battlefield for sure. Like we have the idea of like Tarmogoyf being like growing based on different kinds of mana costs or something like that, or Death's Shadow, you know, being this variable power and toughness. And those are some cards that I saw mentioned when people were talking about Embodiment of Agonies. Number one, neither of those cards are good in our format. But the other thing is that the other cards, they can come down when they're very weak and then grow to be very powerful. A lot of times people will play Death Shadows and they'll be 2/2s. And then it's like after a couple turns is when Death Shadow comes in and just starts smashing people. You know, sometimes people will lead off with a Tarmogoyf just barely able to survive a lightning bolt. You know, that's not a powerful creature, you know, but it's the fact that it grows later on to become a really powerful threat. And Embodiment of Agonies does not do that. Embodiment of Agonies comes onto the battlefield with that many +1/+1 counters. And so you need to have everything set up before the Embodiment of Agonies comes down. So that means that that some of its aggressive mana cost doesn't exactly work for it. Do you know what I mean? Like there's only so many cards that you can reliably mill into your graveyard. And so Embodiment of Agonies, I think that it might be a bigger hoop to jump through for a lot of other formats. For us, I'm just happy to have another demon, you know? And for us, this could just be a value creature that we play in the late game that gets huge. This could be another win condition for Liliana's Contract or another thing that lets you curve into Demon Tribal. One of my problems with Rakdos the Showstopper when I did that deck tech is that the curve was awful. The curve was horrible. Same thing with angels and dragons and stuff like that. Like, I joke around that like the best dragon that I have is Taurian Mauler because it's like the only 3-drop dragon that I can get together. And so this might be one of the better sort of demons in that deck because you can actually you can actually play it on a normal curve, even though it might be a little bit lame. Like this might be a Vampire Nighthawk. And I think that we might be okay with it being sort of like a demon Vampire Nighthawk. Oh, someone mentioned that Dread Presence, it also hits Planeswalkers. That's a great addition too. Being able to just play a swamp and then smack a Planeswalker. That's very good, Louis. Thank you. And then and by the way, mentioning with Urborg, it does work with Urborg. So if you have ways to get Urborg on the battlefield, those will be swamps entering the battlefield for sure. Good call, people. And then I also want to say good morning. Good morning to people joining the stream. Hello, fine people. Thank you to an even 250 of you joining me this morning, this afternoon, this evening, wherever you are in the world to just talk about some Magic. I think it's great hanging out. All right. I want to go and talk about Knight of the Ebon Legion. Okay, Knight of the Ebon Legion is 1 black for a 1/2 Vampire Knight. For 2 and a black, Knight of the Ebon Legion gets +3/+3 and gains Death Touch until end of turn. At the beginning of your end step, if a player lost 4 or more life this turn, put a +1/+1 counter on Knight of the Ebon Legion. Do you have a vampire deck? Do you have a what is it? What's the amazing Sorin Markov? Do you have a Sorin Markov deck? This belongs in that deck. It's just such a slam dunk for so many of these different decks that go around vampires that really want to be aggressive, that this just like belongs in that deck and doesn't belong in many other decks. Hello, fine people. And I like that you guys are, Edgar Markov, thank you. Hello, fine people from all over the place. I'm happy that you joined me. Okie doke. Let's go on to Leyline of the Void. Okay, Leyline of the Void is 2 black for an enchantment. If Leyline of the Void is in your opening hand, you may begin the game with it on the battlefield. If a card would be put into an opponent's graveyard from anywhere, exile it instead. I think that this becomes a necessity to have in mill decks, and it really sucked because mill decks are not the most powerful of strategies. So if you're talking about power level, if the power level of mill is down here, but the price of Leyline of the Void is up here, like you're never going to mix. You know what I mean? So like it makes me really bothered that lower power level and more budget strategies need really expensive cards to function. And so if we can bring Leyline of the Void's price down, then we can actually see it entering into some decks and being some graveyard hate. You just need graveyard hate. I lean more heavily on cards like Scavenger Grounds, Bojuka Bog, Relic of Progenitus, because they're lower impact. I hate the idea of my graveyard hate just being a dead card in certain matchups. I really dislike it. So having Scavenger Grounds be just a land, is fine. Or being able to cycle Relic of Progenitus if I don't need the graveyard hate just has me feeling like it's a little bit less of a sunk cost into my deck. Definitely needed a reprint right here. I think everyone's agreeing to that. Definitely needed a reprint. All right, let's talk about Rotting Regisaur. 2 and a black for a 7/6 zombie dinosaur. At the beginning of your upkeep, discard a card. Yeah, we do not need big beaters in our format. The card advantage is not worth it. If you were interested in a card that feels a little bit similar, if you remember Master of the Feast was 1 black for a 5/5 flyer. Yeah, so 3 CMC for a 5/5 flyer, and that did not see play. It actually had the drawback of at the beginning of your upkeep, each opponent draws a card. So some people played that in like Nekasar decks. Actually, I played it for a tiny bit in like a Nekasar deck. And so that might be a little bit more of a drawback than discarding cards from yourself. But still, it's just not gonna, the power alone is not enough to overcome the drawback on this card. But isn't it cute? Maybe it's giving the beetle a run for its money. Wouldn't you like a bone dinosaur glowing purple in your house? I think so. I like it. All right, let's talk about, spoiler, my favorite black card from this set is Scheming Symmetry. 1 black for a sorcery. Choose 2 target players. Each of them searches their library for a card, then shuffles their library and puts that card on top of it. Oh, oh, it's so scheming. It's so political. I am a huge fan of Skullwinder. Skullwinder is 2 and a green for a snake with 1/3 snake with Death Touch. And when it enters the battlefield, you get to choose an opponent and they get to Eternal Witness. They get to get a card back from their graveyard and you get to get a card back from your graveyard. I have found that Skullwinder in tons of different situations has been, hey, opponent, you need to use your turn and your resources to take care of this problem. And by the way, I also get a thing. It's like you get this board wipe or you get this answer. Okay, Scheming Symmetry is going to do that, but so much better. You're going to play it when you really need to, and you're going to empower an opponent to answer another opponent. You're also, excuse me, dog. Just going to take a break with the dogs barking. Delicious break. Okay. In Scheming Symmetry, this is how it's going to play out. You're going to say, we need to answer this threat. Opponent, I will give you the opportunity to answer this. And they're going to take their draw step and their mana to answer some other problem, and you're just going to set up your own draw. It is so good. It's so good. And also people are, Rico is mentioning that's the best two-headed giant tutor. Yeah, for sure. Best two-headed giant. I reminded my dog that I'm streaming, and so she's gonna be respectful now. She heard me, and she's like, you know what? I don't care if there's a chihuahua outside. I'm just gonna be chill, and I'm gonna respect that, Dad's hanging out with his friends. All right. There's other ways, by the way, to make Scheming Symmetry not be as symmetrical. You can play things like even Mind Sensor and say, Scheming Symmetry. You get to look at the top 4 cards of your library and put whatever one you wanted on top of it. Leon and Arbiter also interrupts your opponent's ability to search. But ultimately, Scheming Symmetry, I don't think that you need to play around that in our format. I think that this is a political card is going to work really, really, really well from you. That's right. My dogs, Dr. Hunter says, my dogs just want me to be hydrated, be able to drink my coffee and stuff like that. Delicious. 1 second. Okay. Back on. All right. Let's go on from Scheming Symmetry into... Oh my gosh, we got another Planeswalker. Another Oathbreaker candidate right there. Sorin... Ooh, did someone... Sorry. I gotta go back. Someone mentioned one of my favorite cards. And then also... I don't remember who it was, but I saw it out of the corner of my eye. Where did you... There we go. His Royal Insanity mentioned Scheming Symmetry with Obnixilis. Obnixilis, you mentioned. Whenever an opponent searches their library, they isn't it? I think it's 10 damage or they lose 10 life. And then there's like a bunch of +1/+1 counters. It's so good. And by the way, some of my favorite games have been flashing in Obnixilis while people are searching and just like nuking them out of nowhere. I think they sacrifice a creature too. It's crazy. It really, really punishes your opponent. So definitely Obnixilis Unshackled, I think is the name of it. That'll definitely be that. Scheming Symmetry and Stolen Strategy? Is Stolen Strategy, I think, a thing? Wait, no, that's not going to work. Stolen Goods is what someone else mentioned. Man, there's so many ways to mess with this card. Okay. I'm done geeking out. Let's go on to this one. Yeah, Obnixilis with Fertilid. You make them search up lands and destroy their board. Oh my gosh, this is the jank that we're excited about in Commander. All right, Sorin Imperious Bloodlord. 2 and a black for a 4 loyalty Planeswalker. +1, target creature you control gains Death Touch and Lifelink until end of turn. If it's a vampire, put a +1/+1 counter on it. Okay, solid but low impact. I really wish that this went until our next turn, but it's just until end of turn. So this does not hold back people attacking into your Sorin. Sorry, let me keep going. With the second +1, you may sacrifice a vampire. When you do, Sorin Imperious Bloodlord deals 3 damage to any target and you gain 3 life. A +1 on a Lightning Helix. If you happen to have a bunch of leftover 1/1 vampires like Sorin Markov, or like, Edgar Markov has, then that's going to be really good. And then the -3, you may put a vampire creature card from your hand onto the battlefield. Boom. That's the ability. This could be a 3-mana Planeswalker that just cheats mana like crazy. Not only can you do some goofy stuff like, make all your cards vampires and then put an Eldrazi into play, but really you don't need to. Narcana Revenant or Patron of the Vein, Necropolis Regent or Butcher of Malakir. These are all CMC 6 or higher, and they're great additions to be able to just jump ahead in mana and really empower your whole vampire team. And then Sorin Imperious Bloodlord has that level of protection. It is protected by your vampire that you just put onto the battlefield. And then you can feel free to start ticking it up again. You just start ticking up and maybe you're shooting down other creatures, you're lightning helixing things, or maybe you're just giving yourself some buffer in terms of your life gain. Yeah, it's actually really good. It's really good in a vampire strategy. I wonder what, I'm going to figure out what this is going for in terms of price. $13. Hopefully it'll go down. Okay, we're about to have a lot of vampires. There are a lot of vampires in Standard right now, and then the vampires are going to rotate out. So there might be some people being like, woohoo, I'm going to play with vampires. And then it's going to rotate out, and then there's going to be plenty of time to do that. Yeah, Butcher Malakir, gross. Thought Distortion. I heard Josh talking to me about Thought Distortion, and I don't know. I think that if this hit all of your opponents, it would be pretty good. But when I have to target an opponent specifically, I feel like it's not doing enough and it's too conditional. But teach their own and teach meta their own too. Okay, let's just mention the art on Unholy Indenture. Very nice. But really what we're going to do is scroll down here to this gross card, this amazing card. Vilis Broker of Blood. 5 black for an 8/8 legendary demon. Of course it has flying. Of course it has greed built onto it. 1 black, pay 2 life. Target creature gets -1/-1 until end of turn. Whenever you lose life, draw that many cards. What? Just what? Like, Gristlebrand is obviously banned in our format, and it's grossly broken, okay? But Vilis, Broker of Blood, it feels like it's just one hair short of being broken. I know that Gristlebrand has a free activation, basically. You just pay the life. And that does give it the edge, for sure. Whenever you have this mana restriction, you're definitely hampering the ability of the card. But this is very good. It has greed built into this card, and greed is very good. Greed is black, pay 2 life, draw a card. By the way, just imagine if you activate greed. If you activate greed with Vilis on the battlefield, you'll pay a black and draw 4 cards. What? Just imagine if you have a Phyrexian Arena and every turn you'll lose a life and draw 2 cards. Just imagine if you play Read the Bones or Sign In. Just imagine you're playing Sign in Blood or Night's Whisper and you're paying 2 and drawing 4 cards. It turns this black drawback into something just gross. It's very good. I think my favorite combination is got to be Lich's Mastery. Lich's Mastery is 3 black, black, black for a legendary enchantment with hexproof, saying you can't lose the game. Whenever you gain life, draw that many cards. Whenever you lose life, for each 1 life you lost, exile a permanent you control or a card from your hand or graveyard. When Lich's Mastery leaves the battlefield, you lose the game. So basically, any damage you take with Lich's Mastery, like, you just get to change in cards for damage, and then you just keep doing this stuff. Like, it ends up being this gross engine of not losing the game and just drawing through your whole deck. I think this is just... I think that it's fun. I think that it's gross. And I think I need to crack out my Shadowborn Apostles deck and start playing with some more demons. Cheating them onto the battlefield and losing a bunch of life. I mean, we're all in agreement, right? Like, this is pretty disgusting. And no one in our format is like, oh, 8 mana is too much. You know, like, we play 8 mana spells. This is going to be super good. All right. Let's go back and talk about the cards that I am most excited about. And it's going to land on the pet that I want in my house is got to be Blight Beetle. I want a magical beetle that's super cute. I would have is this a rhinoceros beetle, I think, or something like that? Like, I would have this beetle anyways. Like, I would, if I was more responsible, if I had more time, I would totally own a beetle like this. So that's going to be a part of my collection. Okay. The card that I'm most excited about is Scheming Symmetry. It's my kind of card. I'm going to put it in so many different decks. It's going to be great. And then the art that I'm most excited about, that I like a lot, is this Unholy Indenture. This Scheming Symmetry, by the way, also by Seb McKinnon, what on earth is he doing, is great. This Leyline of the Void I like as well. And there's one up here. This Dread Presence looks super good too. Not Bone Splinters. This Blood for Bones looks good. Also Seb McKinnon working too hard. But I've got to go with this Unholy Indenture. It just looks sick. Doesn't it look good? Oh my gosh. All right. Let's go on to red. In red, let's start off with Cavalier of Flame. 2 red for a 6/5 Elemental Knight. 1 in a red. Creatures you control get +1/+0 and gain haste until end of turn. When Cavalier of Flame enters the battlefield, discard any number of cards, then draw that many. When Cavalier of Flame dies, it deals X damage to each opponent, and each planeswalker they control, where X is the number of land cards in your graveyard. That is a mouthful of a card. Let's go through it step by step. First off, 5 CMC for a 6/5? Fine. Not that great for our format. But when we start throwing in these bonuses, my gosh, it's so great. All right. 1 in a red. Creatures you control get +1/+0 and gain haste until end of turn. Okay. I really like pumping up your creatures. So like Warmonger Hellkite, Lathless Dragon Queen pumping dragons, or Perforos God of the Forge, that hidden ability of pumping, I think is very good. Red decks often really kind of go wide. They create tokens really well. They'll create elementals really well in this set. And so being able to pump our army becomes very good. And also haste. Oh my. The haste is this sneaky secret ability. Like, I would pay 1 in a red to just give something haste. Do you know how often we're playing, like we're deploying red creatures and we just really want to get in for more damage? The haste is key. And yeah, I think it's very good. Okay, we haven't even gotten to the good part yet. Okay, the red does have a problem with drawing cards, and some of the red card draw, like Wheel of Fortune, just is so good and so old, it's stupid expensive, and it can't just go in everyone's commander decks. And so we need cards like, you know, Seasoned Pyromancer that just came out. And the Seasoned Pyromancer is 1 red for a 2/2? Notes. 2/2. Human Shaman. When it enters the battlefield, discard 2 cards, then draw 2 cards. Pretty good. For each non-land card discarded this way, create a 1/1 red elemental creature token. So Seasoned Pyromancer, very good. A little bit pricey because people are realizing how good it is, and there's even more text on the Seasoned Pyromancer. But creatures that also generate card draw in our format is very good. And so red being able to get rid of all this excess stuff and really start drawing into things that are a little bit better is going to be really good. Getting rid of excess lands is strong as well. And then that brings up the last ability, which is this like little mini board wipe that can also impact these planeswalkers. Just incidental damage in red is always good. This could go really well in a Windgrace deck where you're going to have a lot of lands into the graveyard. But really, I wouldn't build around this last ability. I think it's just like a little bit of extra value, and also just helps answer some of the rampant planeswalker-ish going on. That ultimately, I think Cavalier of Flame, because it has that card draw on it, is better than the other Cavaliers that I've mentioned before. Especially for red, you know, some of the other ones like black killed a creature. Yay. Black kills a creature. Okay. That's great. And everything like that. You know, white, you know, destroys a permanent into a golem. It's like, okay, white kind of does that. You know, that's a thing. Like no one's complaining about the removal in white. You know, blue does brainstorm, drawing cards. Woo. All right. You know, but Cavalier of Flame, it's like, this draw, like this is an effect that red needs, and his red has been getting more and more and more of. So that's really good. All right, talked a lot about that. Let's talk about Chandra, Acolyte of Flame. 1 red for a legendary planeswalker, Chandra, starting off with 4 loyalty. 0, put a loyalty counter on each red planeswalker you control. That includes Chandra, so that would kind of be a +1, kinda. 0, create 2 1/1 red elemental creature tokens. They gain haste. Sacrifice them at the beginning of the next end step. Not very good unless you're messing with elementals. I'll talk about that in a second. And then -2, you may cast target instant sorcery card with converted mana cost 3 or less from your graveyard. If that card would be put in the graveyard this turn, exile it instead. Notice it does not say, you know, for free. It just says, you know, you may cast it. You know, so when we're a format of big spells, Chandra doesn't hit those big spells, blah. But Chandra does add a bunch of loyalty to our planeswalkers, and we haven't seen that in red. And so Chandra could very easily be a part of a mono red planeswalker deck. And actually, I think that that is something I'm super excited about. I think that if I were to make a commander deck around Chandra, I would either have Chandra as the Oathbreaker and fill it full of red planeswalkers that just get to ultimate out of nowhere because Chandra gives them all plus loyalty. If I were going to make like a red planeswalker deck, I'd put Kazul, Tyrant of the Cliffs at the helm, because people can't really attack your planeswalkers unless then you'll create ogres. Or I'll put it in like a Will Kendrith and Rowan Kendrith deck, reducing the mana cost of planeswalkers and kind of messing with the activations. I actually think that combination sounds really, really fun to me. I also think that I could combine this with like a Sark in the Master List, which I really liked a lot. The idea of a mono red planeswalker deck that suddenly turns your planeswalkers into dragons and pew-pews your opponents. I like that too. And then, to be honest, we have this elemental thing, which is cute more than good. It could be cute in an Omnath Locus of Rage deck where creating elementals is very powerful and you can bolt things. It could be cute paired with the new Risen Reef, which is a 1 green-blue card that lets you Coiling Oracle every time an elemental enters the battlefield. So that will let you Coiling Oracle twice. We'll talk about Risen Reef when we get down to the multicolored cards. But I feel like that's more cutesy than good. I want to see this in a Planeswalker deck because I feel like the put a loyalty counter on each red Planeswalker you control, that's where we want to be. And if I have to cast back, a Faithless Looting again, hopefully not a Faithless Looting. If I have to recast like a Wheel of Fortune that I can't afford, or let's say we got a, Chaos Warp something, then Chandra of Acolyte of Flame can give us that other level of value for sure. All right, let's talk about the big, the big Chandra gets accidentally clicked on and deserves a big frame. Let's go for it. Chandra Awakened Inferno. Awakened Inferno. 4 red for a legendary Planeswalker Chandra with 6 loyalty. This spell can't be countered. No countering at all. +2, bringing this up to 8 loyalty. Each opponent gets an emblem with, at the beginning of your upkeep, this emblem deals 1 damage to you. -3, Chandra the Awakened Inferno deals 3 damage to each non-elemental creature. And -X, Chandra Awakened Inferno deals X damage to target creature or planeswalker. If a permanent dealt damage this way would die this turn, exile it instead. All right. I think that a lot of hype around this card has to do with that immediate emblem. And it is a fun emblem. I do think that in our format, the 1 damage is way less than in standard or in other formats. Like, people are worried about, well, you can't counter it and you get this emblem immediately and you can't interact with the emblem. Okay. Yeah. And in standard, where there's a lot more control, there's a lot less balance going on with the rest of the table, just 1 damage turn after turn after turn could just mean the end of the game. But when you start off with 40 life, when you have this dynamic of multiplayer, then actually 1 damage every single turn is very beatable. It's definitely a little bit less impactful in our format than in others. It doesn't mean that Chandra is a bad card, and I would totally play this and tick it up and just start pinging my opponents to death. But just compare it to other effects like this, like Ill-Gotten Inheritance or Palace Siege. Curse of the Pierced Heart costs 2 mana, and that gives someone 1 damage every single turn. People aren't freaking out about those cards. I actually think that we've seen this kind of effect on Nekusar type decks. So things like Underworld Dreams, where everyone takes damage when they draw a card. You're not freaking out at Underworld Dreams and immediately getting rid of it. What you're afraid of is the Nekusar opponent wheeling you. Do you know what I mean? Like, you're afraid of a windfall where you take 7 and then they windfall again and you take another 7. You're not afraid of the 1 damage of Underworld Dreams, or Nekusar himself. So the 1 damage of Chandra Awakened Inferno is not this big thing that we have to overcome immediately in our format. It's not a big boogeyman. Boogie Chandra. But it is something that could be interesting. Okay, the -3, it's not as good as the minus on the other 6 mana Chandra. Other 6 mana Chandra of create 2 3/1s, like the aggressive 3/1 elementals that attack, the board wipe, or the wheel. I think that's better than this Chandra. I honestly do. I think that Chandra of Flamecaller is the other 6 mana Chandra. I think the other Chandra is better. But obviously for my all Chandra deck, for my all red Planeswalker deck, I'll include this one too. All right. Hopefully, hang on. I got to look down. Every so often I look down and I just see gems. Sam, again, with amazing card recollection when I describe them poorly, also has Chandra into Obliterate. Oh, that's funny. Obliterate just obliterates the whole world and puts everyone down. Life, that'd be so funny. Okay. Chandra Novice Pyromancer is 3 and a red for a 5 loyalty uncommon Planeswalker. I'm mostly pointing this out because it's uncommon. You can minus add 2 red, blah. You can plus give your elementals +2/+0, blah. You can -2 to have it deal 2 damage. No one was talking about Jaya, Jaya in Commander, so we don't need to talk about Chandra, uncommon Chandra. Chandra's Regulator, though, there's a nice little imitation of Rings of Brighthearth, but it's a little bit more limited. Chandra's Regulator is 1 and a red for a legendary artifact. Whenever you activate a loyalty ability of a Chandra Planeswalker, not a red Planeswalker, but a Chandra Planeswalker, you may pay 1. If you do copy that ability, you may choose new targets for the copy. Well, what if we copy Chandra's Plus and then they take 2 damage a turn? Amazing! You can also pay 1 and tap this to discard a mountain card or a red card, draw a card. Okay, lets you rummage. 2 mana Rummager, blah. Copying a Chandra ability, narrow, definitely not Rings of Brighthearth. All right. Let's go down to, this dragon. Oh, I just tried to read this dragon and it stymied me. Drakuseth. I don't know why that stymied me. It's pretty good. Drakuseth. Maw of Flames. 4 red for a 7/7 legendary dragon with flying, and when Drakuseth Maw of Flames attacks, it deals 4 damage to any target and 3 damage to each of up to 2 other targets. So basically, if you attack with this, you can immediately just go and like 4 someone's face and smash them for 7. And by the way, we're in multiplayer. There are going to be tons of targets. You can just like bolt your opponents over and over again. This has me thinking of Inferno Titan. When it attacks, it deals 3 damage divided up however you want. This is just like a big old zapping Inferno Titan. Inferno Titan's power, though, is when it comes down, it deals this, and that's something that's not to be, like, you do not want to minimize Inferno Titan's power of just entering the battlefield and immediately getting advantage, because entering the battlefield is way easier to get than attacking. Attacking can be a tricky thing to get right. And so, yes, Drakuseth Maw of Flames does a ton of damage when it attacks, spread all over, doing crazy things, but you still got to be able to get to the point where you're turning him sideways. All right. I also want to mention, this is the pet that I want, a fried chicken. Glinthorn Buccaneer. 1 red for a 2/4 Minotaur Pirate with haste. Whenever you discard a card, Glinthorn Buccaneer deals 1 damage to each opponent. This could be very good in a lot of decks that revolve around discard. This also goes very nicely with Minotaurs and Pirates. Pretty good. And this would just come home for me if this ability... It's 1 and a red, discard a card, draw a card. Activate this ability only if Glinthorn Buccaneer is attacking. I really wish you could do it anytime, but maybe that would be too good. So this ends up being a little bit limited. I actually think it'd be very good in many red decks if you could activate this at any time. But, we're a multiplayer format. Like, you can often get damage through at multiple opponents, like be attacking tons of different people. So maybe Glinthorn Buccaneer will surprise me a little bit more. Goblin Ringleader is good. It's a reprint. Play it in your Goblin decks. Let's mention the Leyline of Combustion. I don't think it's very good for our format. 2 red for an enchantment. If Leyline of Combustion is in your opening hand, you may begin with the game with it on the battlefield. Whenever you or at least 1 permanent you control becomes target of a spell or ability an opponent controls, Leyline of Combustion deals 2 damage to that player. So in other formats, like Modern per se, you are constantly the target of things. You're so often the target of stuff that you can really abuse a card like Leyline of Combustion, and it can just kind of close out a game. We are very rarely the target of these things, and if you need to Swords to Plowshare something, you would gladly take 2 damage to do it. Okay. And so Leyline of Sanctity, where we have hexproof, it doesn't matter. We're hardly ever targeted. Leyline of Combustion, where it sort of protects your things with damage. No, not going to be good enough. All right. Marauding Raptor. I'm excited about this because it can go in my Grimlock deck. It is 1 in a red for a 2/3 dinosaur, and creature spells you cast cost 1 less to cast. Wow, that's pushed. Okay. It's a 2 mana reducer. That's very good. Sometimes when there's spells that reduce the mana, they cost a little bit more, or they're more limited. Like, for example, there's a goblin that reduces dragon spells, you know, so it's very limited, you know what I mean? But this just reduces creature spells. Strong. Okay. Whenever another creature enters the battlefield under your control, Marauding Raptor deals 2 damage to it. Okay. So that's supposed to keep you from comboing. So if they're maybe thinking like, okay, well, this could be super broken if you find a way to sort of keep playing creature spells for free. But if that creature takes 2 damage, maybe it'll interrupt the loop a little bit. And it might, you know, that could actually be a good balance on this ability. But I just love how cleanly it works with dinosaurs, being able to immediately get that in rage. I actually think that's very, very, very good. And I love that it's dinosaur. And people are talking about Polyraptor drawing the game. If you want to be a goof, Polyraptor comes in, and if you have no way of dealing with it, it'll just deal 2 damage, create another Polyraptor, deal 2 damage, create another Polyraptor, blah, 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 Polyraptors all over. Yeah. So Polyraptor is super duper gross, and it's going to be great. And then also, like, Marauding Raptor gets +2/+0 until end of turn if it's a dinosaur. So this could just swing in for a lot. You could play 2 dinosaurs. And you could swing in for 6. Crazy, right? I think this is pushed, and they definitely wanted to. I think it's very clever because right now, Marauding Raptor is affecting standard for a very short amount of time because Ixalan block is about to rotate out with the fall set. And so right now it only has a couple months to really impact all the dinosaurs. And so I think Marauding Raptor is very pushed, and they pushed it at just the right time. Same thing with all the vampire synergies they have. They push the vampire synergies to really like mix up standard, make sort of a fun thing. And then when the fall set comes in, all the Ixalan vampires and all the dinosaurs fade away. And then you can kind of have a refreshed standard. Good job on Wizards for putting that together. Okay. I do like, by the way, this Rapacious Dragon. I especially like it in the Dragon decks because it enters the battlefield, you create 2 treasure tokens. Not only is that just great flavor, but 5 CMC is a little bit much. But if you're paying 4 mana for this, 4 mana for a 3/3 that creates 2 treasures and helps you ramp into your bigger dragons and fix your mana for your Dragon, this is something that might have gone by a lot of other people that I don't think that you should sleep on. Rapacious Dragon, kind of good. Okay. Repeated Reverberation. 2 red for an instant. When you next cast an instant spell, cast a sorcery spell, or activate a loyalty ability this turn, copy that spell or ability twice. You may choose new targets for the copy. I've seen copy effects be very powerful, and when you copy things twice, it actually becomes super broken. Ral proved that with the ability to copy effects, and we just kind of went infinite out of nowhere. And Repeated Reverberation has that ability to just kind of like, oops, I went infinite with Repeated Reverberation. But also it could just be a value card. You play Repeated Reverberation, and then you activate a loyalty ability, and then it's like, boop, 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 boop. Speaking of which, if maybe you could have a mono-red Planeswalker Oathbreaker deck and then have Repeated Reverberation as the signature spell, who wants to see me make that? Because I kind of want to try. Okay. But this is very, very good. The thing that I think limits it a little bit is that it does nothing on its own. A lot of the fork effects, I think that they're a little bit like classic fork is a little bit better because you can copy your opponent's spells. And in many situations, you can win a counter war. So like you're trying to resolve something important and then they counter it and then you fork their counterspell, countering their counterspell. So fork is by design much more flexible, being lower mana cost and being able to target your opponent's spells. Repeated Reverberation has an upped power level, which means that it can fit into Commander very nicely. But sometimes we really, really enjoy flexibility in a singleton format. All right. Let's go on to Thunderkin Awakener. 1 and a red for a 1/2 hasty elemental shaman. When Thunderkin Awakener attacks, choose target elemental creature card in your graveyard with toughness less than Thunderkin Awakener's toughness. Return that card to the battlefield tapped and attacking. Sacrifice at the beginning of the next end step. What do you want to do? You want to lightning skelemental people. Ultimately, this lets you cheat things into play, so it could be very good. But here's the thing that I really like about Thunderkin Awakener, and I mentioned a little bit earlier. You know how Dragon Lord's Servant, that's the goblin that reduces the dragon's cost by 1. Okay. I really hate that it's a goblin that interacts with dragons. I love that the dinosaur up there interact with dinosaurs because it fits in my dinosaur deck. Just like Forerunner of the Empire, that's a human soldier that interacts with dinosaurs. So it goes in your dinosaur deck, but it's not a dinosaur. Okay. But I feel like maybe they're getting away from that because Thunderkin Awakener is an elemental and it synergizes with elementals. So that's what I like. I like it when the things that I need to, like this, I like that this is a dinosaur that interacts with other dinosaurs and fits together. I hated Forerunner of the Empire because it's a human soldier that interacted with dinosaurs. I love that this is an elemental shaman that deals with elementals. But in Commander, there's a very narrow effect. Okay. We've done it. We've gone through red. Let's go back and pick the card I'm most excited about, the card whose art I like the most, and the pet I want in my house. The card that I am most excited about is... not that one. The card that I'm most excited about is 3 mana Chandra. Honestly, I think that I'm most excited about that. I was second excited for Cavalier of Flame, but this is just another boring effect. I think Chandra Acolyte of Flame is, with this loyalty ability, like messing with the loyalty abilities of other planeswalkers, it gives me this like this new way of chain veiling, and I like that. And so I really want to play like with a restrictive 1 red chain veil. That sounds really cool, and it lets me build around stuff a lot. Okay, then the art that I am excited about the most, I saw it. Where was the art that I liked? I was liking, is this a new Tectonic Rift art? I really like this art. Hang on, let's check if this is new. There's so many Tectonic. No, it's not even new. It was in 19.2. Nope. Can't like that art. Gotta like a new one. Let's see if I can find a new art that I like a lot. What do you guys like in terms of the art? No, I think that's silly. The Ringleader art is fine. I don't know. Maybe I'm not just a fan. I got to admit, this dragon is very epic looking. This Drakuseth Maw Flame. What are you guys saying? Let's see here. Ooh, Chandra Spitfire is very cool. Is this new art? Oh man, their magazine insert art is better than this one. Look at that magazine insert art right there. Oh my gosh. This is just a cool card in general. This would be very, I don't know, but I do like this art. Okay, this is going to be, Chandra Spitfire is going to be my choice for awesome art. And then the card that, I got to talk about the pet that I want. The pet that I want is a flaming cat. Obviously, I want a cat that's on fire. It just looks so cute. I want a flaming cat in my house. I was also thinking about getting, where was it? This was like a goblin thing, and it was like grabbing a bird, and that was super weird. I don't know. I was also thinking about, yeah, there we go. This mastiff, this wolfy thing, this like crazy, looks like it's an enchantment as well. Looks like it's Theros-y stuff. But I don't know. I didn't like the big eyes kind of stuff. That dragon also, oh, it's got a lizard too. Nope, I'm sticking with the cat. I'm sticking with the cat, everyone. Fry. Fry, is Fry the best art, or is Fry the animal I want in my house? Mark is throwing shade at cats. It's like cats are practice dogs. When you know you want a dog, but you can't quite handle one yet, you just get a cat. And then Fry is the pet that I should have. All right, done. Now I'll get a chicken feet. I've had chicken feet a few times, and I know that in a lot of cultures it's a delicacy and they eat them up, and I just can't do it. I've tried them, but yeah, I think I enjoy the rest of the chicken a little bit more. Fry. Let's look at Fry's flavor text before we move on. I'm afraid your dinner got a little overcooked. I love it. Okay. All right. Let's get ready. We're about to round out the color pie by finishing with green. I don't have Bark-Tide Troll. The first thing I have on here is Cavalier of Thorns, the last of the cycle. 2 green, green, green for a 5/6 Elemental Knight with Reach. When Cavalier of Thorns enters the battlefield, reveal the top 5 cards of your library, put a land card from among them onto the battlefield, and the rest into your graveyard. Ramp and Graveyard Shenanigan Enabling, sold. And when Cavalier of Thorns dies, you may exile it. If you do, put another target card from your graveyard on top of your library. I dislike that this is card disadvantage. It just stacks the top of your library. It doesn't draw you that card. I don't know. But I actually think that the front end is good enough that you'd be totally willing to play Cavalier of Thorns. Ramp is so important in our format. Speaking of which, Elvish Reclaimer. 1 green for a 1/2 Elf Warrior. Elvish Reclaimer gets +2/+2 as long as there are 3 or more land cards in your graveyard. You can pay 2 and tap it to sacrifice a land, to search your library for a land card, put it on the battlefield tapped, then shuffle your library. Crop rotation on a dude. Yes. Crop rotation is very powerful. Here's the thing. Crop rotation, though, is a little bit better than this, I have to say. Okay, because crop rotation is instant. That's really important. And so that means your opponents can't sort of see it happening. Okay. A lot of times you don't need a ton of lands. Like you need your 1 cradle or you need your 1 other land. And I think I found this out by playing with Knight of the Reliquary a lot. With Knight of the Reliquary, the first 2 activations are amazing, and then it starts going downhill. Knight of the Reliquary is 1 green white for a 2/2 human knight, and it gets +1/+1 for each land card in your graveyard. You sacrifice a forest or a plains to get any land. But the Elvish Reclaimer is just in good company. If I'm talking about crop rotation and Knight of the Reliquary, then we're immediately talking about an amazing card, right? Right? Like, this is just like Expedition map almost. Like, it's very good. And so this is going immediately in my Lands Matter decks. It should go in your Lands Matter decks. You should consider it if you're playing an elf deck. If you own a Gaia's Cradle, you should consider it. If you have a deck that has Urborg, that has green in it and also has Urborg and Cabal Coffers, like sort of a big mana deck, yeah, it's crazy. Yeah, my pups out there, they are ferocious. Oh, that transition. Transition to adorable. This has got to be a slam dunk win for the cutest animal I have. Ferocious pup. 2 and a green for a 0/1. And when it comes onto the battlefield, you get a 2/2 green wolf creature token. This is going to be very good and limited. Creating 2 bodies is very strong. And then wolf decks. Yeah, create 2 wolves. That's what you want in wolf decks. So this is a wolf deck all-star. This is an adorable all-star. This is limited and my pick for standout card of the set, Ferocious Pup. Okay. Gargos, Vicious Watcher. 3 green for an 8/7 Hydra. Legendary Hydra, by the way. 6 CMC for an 8/7 Hydra with Vigilance. Hydra spells you cast cost 4. 4 less to cast. That's such a reduction in cost. Oh my gosh. Whenever a creature you control becomes target of a spell, Gargos Vicious Watcher fights up to one target creature you don't control. It's just like, I love that flavor. It's just like, because it's like this Vicious Watcher and it's watching everywhere. And it's like, no, not one of my Hydras. And like goes out and attacks people. This is the Hydra General. Thank you. Like, Wizards has been doing a slam dunk job just giving us things that we could want. And there have been people playing like Roshin, the guy that adds mana for that thing. They just gave us another Hydra enabler with the thing from Modern Horizons that someone's going to put down in the comments in a second. And it's just good. It's just good. Just imagine playing a Genesis Hydra for 2 and going 4 deep. It's so good. Hydra is gross, and this is fun. We needed Hydra as a commander anyways, so that's just going to be great. Unbound Flourishing. There we go. Thank you, Louis. And so Gargos is solid. Just like you're gonna. I'm wondering if this is good enough to play outside of a Hydra deck. I don't know. And so it might be very limited. Like you might not run into Gargos very often, but it's very good. Okay. Let's go down to the final ley line that we're going to be talking about. It is going to be Leyline of Abundance. 2 green for a ley line, which means if it's in your opening hand, you can start the game with it on the battlefield. Whenever you tap a creature for mana, add an additional green. Okay. 6 green, put a +1/+1 counter on each creature you control. So your mana dorks can tap for an extra green. What ramp? What solid stuff. I should make a Gargos commander deck. That might actually, I might not have time to do it very soon, but that might be on my to-do list. Okay. Leyline of Abundance. We don't want mana dorks. We want, in our format, we want lands onto the battlefield. Mana dorks are subject to board wipes and removal, and they just end up dying all over the place. And so why wouldn't we just play a different card? Like, and by the way, adding a single additional green, that's not even that impactful. Like Mirari's Wake is 5 mana. It automatically gives our creatures +1/+1, and it doubles our lands. Mana Reflection is 6 mana, and it doubles everything. Sorry, Mirari's Wake does not double. You get an extra land. Mana Reflection does double. Okay, that's why Mana Reflection is so good, and it doubles everything. Mana Reflection is 4 green for an enchantment. If you tap a permanent for mana, it produces twice that much mana instead. That means your Soul Rings tap for 4. That means your Thran Dynamos tap for 6. That means all your elves tap for more than this additional green. And so when we have effects that are very, very good and far more broad, you know what I mean? We shouldn't have to build our deck around mana dorks. So the hype sucks. Don't play Leyline of Abundance. If you have infinite mana and you like little mana dorks, you should play Shalai Voice of Plenty because it can do this +1/+1 counter activation for 2 mana less. Awesome. Okay. People are being ridiculous. They're like, Mark is like, play with Armageddon. Just like Armageddon, and then your dorks tap for extra mana. Jeez. That's gross. Okay. Night Pack Ambusher. Oh my gosh. Just goes right along with Ferocious Pup, the best card in the set. So if you have an enabler to the best card in the set, you're doing great. 2 green for a 4/4 flashy wolf. Other wolves and werewolves you control get +1/+1. At the beginning of your end step, if you didn't cast a spell this turn, create a 2/2 green wolf creature token. Werewolves and wolves get excited. Tulsimir, you have more friends in this set. So just mentioning it for all those tribal synergies that I know you guys have. All right. Normal stuff. Season of Growth. Enters the battlefield and you control scry 1. Whenever you cast a spell that targets a creature you control, draw a card. This I've seen people talk about. Sorry. Season of Growth is a card that I've seen people really kind of like brewing about, because whenever you cast a spell that targets a creature you control, draw a card. And so you can kind of like create engines a little bit. So for example, there are spells with buyback. There are spells that untap other creatures. And so there's also like things that you can put on Isochron Scepter. And so I've seen people be like, oh, this is just another piece of the engine as you keep drawing cards. I think that ultimately when you have a card like this, you want it to do more. So for example, Kaikar and the Jeskai Ascendancy, yeah, that does way more. It untaps and lets you loot. So it does two of the things you need to do, and Season of Growth only really does one thing that you want it to do. So that means that this is going to be a poorer combo piece than so many other cards in the set. Okay, next we have Shared Summons. Shared Summons is 3 green for an instant. Search your library for up to 2 creature cards with different names, reveal them and put them into your hand, then shuffle your library. So it is the bad half of Tooth and Nail, but much cheaper. Just one half of Tooth and Nail is 5 green, 7 CMC. But who casts Tooth and Nail unentwined and chooses to search? Primal Command can impact the board and let you search up a creature. Primal Command is fine. It's not like a super staple. It could be a double Eladamri's Call. Okay. And that actually might be good enough. Instant speed, double Eladamri's Call. I'd play that. That seems pretty good. Also, there's basically people talking about combo potential with this as well. But whenever you do tutoring, there's combo potential. And if you're truly getting like really aggressive with your combos, there are more efficient ways of searching. Okay. Shifting Ceratops. 2 green for a 5/4 dinosaur. The spell can't be countered. Protection from blue. Pay a green. Shifting Ceratops gains your choice of reach, trample, or haste until end of turn. I think this is a solid little dinosaur, and I'm going to put it in my dinosaurs deck. And I really like the bringing back protection. A lot of the things that had protection, they were too small. You know, they really didn't impact our format, and protection is pretty solid in our format. And it's a very complicated mechanic, and it just kind of proves that the core set is not what it used to be, that they're bringing back protection. This creature can't be blocked, targeted, dealt damage, enchanted, or equipped by anything blue. Love that text right there, reminding us of exactly what's going on. Go in your dinosaur decks. 5 mana, hasty 5/4. Heck yeah. 4 mana, come out there and just like smash people. Like, I love that they're bringing these dinosaurs back. Speaking of which, reprint Thrashing Brontodon, very solid. I want to mention this uncommon Veil of Summer. Scroll a little bit. 1 green for an instant. Draw a card if an opponent casts a blue or black spell this turn. Spells you control can't be countered this turn. You and permanents you control gain hexproof from blue and from black until end of turn. You kind of have to ask yourself, how often are you playing against blue decks or black decks? Because the lowest case, like the minimum level of this, like the lowest level is you cycle, you draw a card. That's great. I've actually played with a card called Savage Summoning. It's 1 green for an instant. Basically, Savage Summoning can't be countered, and your next creature can't be countered, and it gets a +1/+1 counter. So sometimes Savage Summoning is just like what I need to do to be able to answer the meta. And so Veil of Summer is just a better version of that. Super solid. I'm going to mention Vivian Arcbow Ranger because she is a Planeswalker, and Planeswalkers are powerful, but I'm not super excited about it. 1 green for a 4 loyalty Vivian Planeswalker, +1 to distribute 2 +1/+1 counters among up to 2 target creatures. They gain trample until end of turn. -3, target creature you control deals damage equal to its power to target creature or Planeswalker. -5, choose a creature card you own from outside the game, reveal it, and put it into your hand. Wah, wah, wah. If I could use that -5, if you have a house rule or if the rules committee changes their rule on sideboards, I think Vivian's changes a lot in my evaluation. But counters and fighting, it's not fighting, it's dealing damage, but whatever. Dealing damage? No, it's not good enough. Move on. Okay. Voracious Hydra. X green for a 0/1 Hydra. Ah, look at that. They're putting Hydras onto the battlefield that maybe get around immediately dying. Maybe they are interacting with other +1/+1 counters. I don't know. But anyways, it's 0/1 Hydra. When it enters the battlefield with X +1/+1 counters on it, when it enters the battlefield, choose one, double the number of +1/+1 counters on it. I love the word double. Or Voracious Hydra fights a creature you don't control. So just imagine we play Voracious Hydra and we sink, I don't know, let's say that this is our commander up here. Gorgos is a commander up there, and we play it after Gorgos. So we have 7 mana. It becomes, it gets X for 9, and so it becomes an 18/19. Trample has trample built onto it. This is something that can totally get huge. And in Hydra decks, you're building your whole deck to make huge creatures. Very, very good. All right. Wake Root Elemental. Wake Root Elemental is 4 green for a 5/5 elemental. You can pay green, 5 green to untap target land you control, and it becomes a 5/5 elemental creature token with haste. It's still a land. Okay. The reason why I mention this is that whenever you have something that just costs mana to untap a land, then that can be broken. So if you ever have a land that taps for more than 5 green, then you can go infinite. Okay. So for example, Sisea Orochi Ascendant, I made a deck about that before, and I really like this. Regularly, when you flip a Siseo, you can have your force producing, 7, 8, 9, 10 mana. Okay. And then Wake Root Elemental can basically just get you infinite mana and make all your lands 5/5s. I mean, that could be pretty good. But ultimately, this is more of a janky win condition right there. But it's something to be considered whenever you can untap a land. That's something that can totally be broken. I mean, it's target land too. Just imagine if you have a Gaia's Cradle, right? Okay. Wolf Rider's Saddle. Nope. I mean, wolves, but nope. Okay. Whenever one or more tokens enter the battlefield in your control, put that many +1/+1 counters. Nope. We have finished green. Let's talk about the card that is the cutest, the one that I want in my house. It's hard, guys. It's really hard because Ferocious Pup has got to win. But like, I want you to look at some of the other things in here. Like I look down and there's, where is it? Oh, there's these two guys. Look at this. Look at this Triceratops. Wouldn't you want like your own like little green cool looking Triceratops in your life? Yeah. Look at this like elemental like wolf bro. I would love to have that around. That's amazing. Right? Okay. Oh, what about a gigantic cat that glows green that's literally your companion? It's got to be Pupper though. Pupper's the choice right there. The art that I'm most excited about is this art right here. Natural End. I just think it looks so epic. Like holding these things up like this and like the magic kind of going around. The haunted blade shattered and the Geist drifted gracefully to the blessed sleep. I like the darkness around there too. Like it feels oversaturated. I think it's very cool. Okay. And then the card that I personally want to play the most. I'm going to play Elvish Reclaimer the most, but the card I'm most excited about is Gargos, Vicious Watcher. I mean, come on. We are given the ability to play crazy Hydras, and this reduction of cost 4 is so big. It's so big. We just have to pay attention to it. All right. Let's talk about multicolored cards. We're almost there. Who's stuck with me? I think a lot of you have stuck with me. Still sitting at 250 people chilling in the stream. Thank you so much for watching. And I feel like a lot of you have been here the whole time. I see some of the same people commenting. So thank you for sticking with me through the set review. But we still got a few more to go and some very spicy multicolored cards. Corpse Knight. White-black for a 2/2 zombie knight. Whenever another creature enters the battlefield in your control, each opponent loses 1 life. Okay, this feels like a I don't know, a throwaway card. It's like, oh, we've seen effects like this before, but it being a zombie is very, very good. Okay, impact tremors and Perforos effects like this are very good in red, but zombies are great at putting tons of bodies on the board. Okay. And this is a card that can enable that. This is another card that can go with the Gravecrawler Phyrexian Altar combo. If, for example, Gravecrawler and Phyrexian Altar, you sacrifice the Gravecrawler to make a black, and then you immediately cast it from the graveyard, and then Corpse Knight will say, aha, you know, I will drain you guys for 1 life. And then also, if you have aggressive decks, this can just be very aggressive and help close out a game. Okay. Creeping Trailblazer, elemental deck, for sure. I love that it can pump all elementals, but it's though it just pumps for all elementals. And so in an elemental deck, this can get really big, but elemental decks are usually a little bit more powerful than a 2/2 for 2. Play it in your flying decks. Yay, another bird. Ironwood Warlord. Again, these are very good signposts for limited right here. It's this star power. And I've seen this before in other ones that like populate. So this is not a slam dunk inclusion, but it's got really high toughness. Okay. It can definitely produce a ton of value as you start pumping things out. So it's definitely something that look good. Okay. Kalia Zenith Seeker, is a safer Kalia. Kalia before was this thing that you had to kill, or else you were going to get like Master of Cruelty to death, or you were going to get like Avacyn out or something like that. And so people were freaking out about it. And so everyone saw Kalia, and then everyone saved their removal, and the Kalia player is like, great, I'm not doing anything. Okay. So Kalia felt like a feel bad commander in my mind, and I never liked the way that it played out. This Kalia gets you value, immediate value in the form of drawing cards. And if you diversify your deck, even if you throw in a few changelings, then you can start drawing several different cards whenever you play Kalia. Just imagine you have a 3/3 flying vigilant, human cleric that can draw you 2 cards. That's very strong to have in the command zone. And so I would rather have a card that has a lower top end, but is very safer and immediately gives me card advantage. Kethis, the Hidden Hand, is already a deck tech that I have made. I'm going to release that on Thursday. Okay, so look forward to Kethis, the Hidden Hand Commander deck tech. I'm very excited about it. All right, Kaikar's Wind's Fury. You probably heard me talk about this on the command zone. It's gross. I like the version that plays Planeswalkers and maybe goes a little bit wide, but this can Josh convinced me that this can definitely be a combo general for sure. I talked to some CDH friends and they're like, "Oh yeah, for sure. Like you're going to combo this into essentially top and Magus of the Future combo lock and then just win the game." So Kaikar can be very, very good as a competitive general. It can be a solid storm general. It can also be a go wide token strategy or planeswalker general. It's good. It's real good and really, really flexible. So good on Wizards for making such a powerful yet flexible and fun commander. All right. Moldervine Reclaimer. It's so much mana. 3 green black. I love that you can draw a card and gain a life, but this effect we can get for 3 mana, so why am I going to pay 5 mana for it? Blah. Okay. Omnath, Locus of the Royal. 1 green, blue, red for a 3/3 legendary elemental. When Omnath Locus of the Royal enters the battlefield, it deals damage to any target equal to the number of elementals you control. You could theoretically have a lot of elementals. For example, the Tempt with Vengeance can put a ton of elementals onto the battlefield. But I mean, come on. Will anyone take that tempting offer if you have Omnath Locus of the Royal in the command zone? So really, you're only going to be doing like 4 or 5 damage or something like that. Everyone's like, car. I know. Literally, as soon as we finished the podcast, we looked at each other, and then I think it was Josh that was like, oh, Kakar is so cool. Oh, that's literally why they named it that, is because it sounds like Kakar. Oh, I'm like, that's it. Should we go back and like record something? And he's like, no, we missed it. So there we go. Sean gave me a heart. Thank you, Sean. I love you back. Yeah. Omnath Locust the Royal is not. Whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, put a +1/+1 counter on target elemental you control. If you control 8 or more lands, draw a card. I mean, we just talked about other cards that generate us land, like the swamp dude that whenever a swamp enters the battlefield, draw a card. Like that, we weren't feeling that was good enough. You know, we have effects that draw us cards, and we jump through fewer hoops. So this is by far the worst of the Omnaths. I said it. You're the worst of the Omnaths because the other ones are awesome. Let's talk about an elemental that's way, way better. Okay. Risen Reef. 1 green-blue for a 1/1 elemental. Whenever Risen Reef or another elemental enters the battlefield in your control, look at the top card of your library. If it's a land card, you may put that card on the battlefield tapped. If you don't put the card onto the battlefield, put it into your hand. So this Coiling Oracle's on itself and every elemental. So that Chandra that creates 2 1/1 elementals that die at the end of turn, or the Chandra that puts 3/1 elementals on the battlefield, you're just Coiling Oracling over and over again. Yeah, gross. This is so gross. And here's the thing. This card is good enough. This card is fine, you know, but if you just, it's just 1 additional mana for Coiling Oracle. You know what I mean? One more mana than Coiling Oracle, and Coiling Oracle is already a good, very playable card. So Risen Reef definitely fits in. And if you watch my Yorick the Desecrated deck, you can find out how Risen Reef combos with cards like Zendikar's Royal. It's so gross. Yorick the Desecrated is a very good commander. Check out my video on that. I don't think any of us are surprised that Yorick is gross and definitely can be broken, and there's tons of different ways to build Yorick. I'm super happy about it for sure. Bag of Holding. I have to wonder if this is good enough in our format because it's value, but it's like small little bits of value. It's a 1-mana artifact. Whenever you discard a card, exile that card from your graveyard. So if you don't have the ability to mess with your graveyard, who cares? Okay. 2 and a tap, draw a card, then discard a card. That's a lot for looting. Okay. Then 4 tap, sacrifice Bag of Holding, return all cards exiled with Bag of Holding to their owner's hand. That's a big effect right there. So literally everything that dies, or whenever you discard a card, so you can discard a card through all sorts of different means, especially to the bag itself. And imagine when you're cycling. Yeah, cycling decks, you just cycle things. Whenever you discard it, it goes into this exile zone, and then you get to bring everything back. You do definitely put everything into one spot for sure. And then if you're relying on those spells and Bag of Holding gets blown up. You know what I mean? Yeah, people love the throwback to D&D. That's why I think that this set and a lot of the others have been a little bit more goofy, a little bit more fun. And this is certainly fun. Look at this artwork right there. They got the great name, got all the stuff, got the artwork. And let's talk about goofy right here. Colossus Hammer. I mean, come on. It's just a crazy little thing right there. Oh yeah, someone mentioned Nunaheb with the Bag of Holding, so anything that can discard those cards, and Nunaheb does a great job of discarding, and so you can just put all those cards underneath it for sure. Okay, Colossus Hammer is a joke. 1 mana, equip creature gets +10/+10 and loses flying. Equip 8. Everyone's talking about Sigarda's Aid in order to just attach instantly to something. In your mind, I would think about this as like a Black Blade Reforged, where you have this big effect and this big equip cost. Here's the thing. If you need to attach it, like if you need something like that Balan, I forget the name. I think it's Balan, the white cat that just has you pay 1 and a white and has you equip everything to it, or the artifact, the automated automaton. I don't know. There's an artifact that also enters the battlefield and just picks up all the equipment. There's a few cards that do that. And so if you have an equipment deck that has a few of those effects in it, then Colossus Hammer seems like it could be very, very good. Core Duelist. And then the Hammer of Nazan is also very good because that instant equips as well. Balan, the Wandering Knight. There we go. That's the other name. Can always count on Sam to be my own personal Scryfall. magnetic theft too. Yeah, there's a lot of ways to cheat this. And then if you have just a 10-10 plus 10 plus 10 on your commander, then you're commander damaging people out for sure. This just has a keyword big, and that's a real thing for sure. Okay. Let's skip down to Golos, Tireless Pilgrim. Okay. Golos is 5 mana for a 3/5 legendary artifact creature scout. And when Golos Tireless Pilgrim enters the battlefield, you may search your library for a land card. Put that card onto the battlefield tapped, then shuffle your library. 2 white, blue, black, red, green, exile the top 3 cards of your library. You may play them this turn without paying their mana costs. Okay. I love that it's play because that means you can hit lands. But by the way, Golos is just 1 more expensive than a Solemn Simulacrum, and it lets you get any land, and it lets you branch out into 5 colors. So immediately Golos comes down, and you get like your big mana. You get your big mana lands, like you get your Cabal Coffers or something like that, and then it becomes easy to recast Golos over and over again. And so you don't need to go for that 2 Wooburg thing. Like, you don't need that for this to be a solid card. You can just keep playing Golos and keep getting lands and have this be a good deck. Some people are talking about Scout Tribal. I wasn't talking about Scout Tribal. Oh my gosh. Who's saying Glad Robot? Obi. I love it. It reminds me. And also whenever you say like Glad Robot, it reminds me of like Sad Robot. Both the thing that the company that does great TV shows and also Solemn Simulacrum. And this is Glad Robot. Golos, you're so cute. Okay. Some people are talking about, not Scout Tribal, but they were talking about the ability to use Golos to Maze's End people to death. Maze's End. I love it. Maze's End is great. Look at Wizards giving us Grafdigger's Cage, the tech we need. Okay. Manifold Key. Okay. 1 mana for an artifact. 1 in tap, untap another target artifact. Thumbs up. Thumbs up for keys. Okay. And then also there's the other key. So there's, so this is a reference to, Voltaic Key, and then also like Key to the City, because it does 2 key things. Because you can 3 and tap, target creature can't be blocked this turn. Manifold Key will go very well in colorless Eldrazi decks or big mana decks, because they can untap those big mana rocks or those big effects. And then also then target creature can't be blocked this turn means that you can just kill people out of nowhere. It's sneaky good. You need to build around it though, for sure. Sorry, I need to go back to Icon of Ancestry. Icon of Ancestry enters the battlefield, choose a creature type. Creatures you control the chosen type get +1/+1. 3 mana, Anthem, solid. Just great. And then you can do 3 and tap, look at the top 3 cards of your library. You may reveal a creature card of the chosen type from among them, put it into your hand, put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. So we just have an Anthem, which is solid, and then we have the ability to, in the late game, really dig us into more action. So Icon of Ancestry is going to go very well in a lot of different strategies, even though it might not be the most aggressive of Anthems. Meteor Golem's a solemn reprint. Good job. And then let's talk about the Salvager of Ruin. I thought about being like an enabler, but honestly, it's not as good as Mer Retriever and some of the other ones. Definitely not as good as Scrap Trawler. It's 3 mana for a 2/1 construct. Every time I see construct, man, I think of the construct, dude. You can sacrifice Salvager of Ruin to choose target permanent card in your graveyard that was put from the battlefield this turn. Return it to your hand. So when you hear things like this, you think like, oh, combos, and you think of Safi, Eric's daughter, but it just isn't quite there. I don't think someone else needs to break this, so then I can give them the good game. Scuttlemutt's Scarecrow, good job. Steel Overseer's broke, but you need to have an artifact deck. Okay, and then that is the end of artifacts. Let's go back and pick out something cute, something that I'm excited about. Look at that bunny. Look at that bunny, and then also the knight behind it. Oh, Mystic Forge. Oh, Mystic Forge is good. Sorry, I missed Mystic Forge. Okay. For CMC, you may look at the top card of your library at any time. You may cast the top card of your library if it's an artifact card or a colorless non-land card. Pay 1 life, exile the top card of your library. This is good. Okay. I've been talking about how good Future Sight is for forever. Okay. It's very good. And I'm sure that if you've been playing Modern Horizons, you might have realized, oh my gosh, Future Sight is very good. When 3 in a red Future Sight came out, sorry, my brain has stopped working a little bit. When standard legal red Future Sight came out, then people were like, I don't know if this is good or not. Yes, it's good. Okay. And this Mystic Forge, if it's in the right deck, it's good too. Whoa, what happened? Why is everyone talking about pizza? I want pizza. Suddenly stop paying attention and then everyone wants pizza. Oh, calzones. Thank you, Experimental Frenzy. Mystic Forge is going to be perfect in those right kinds of deck. Okay. Oh man, I'm going to have a really, really hard time picking this stuff for sure. Because I went colorless and colored at the same time. The card that I'm most excited about, okay. Let's see here. I think that the art I like the most is Golos Tireless Pilgrim. I really like the way that this looks. I like this art a lot. Honorable mention goes to Icon of Ancestry for sure. But Golos gets the art nod right here. The card that I'm most excited about, I actually think is Bag of Holding. Nah, I gotta go. I'm super hyped about my Kethis the Hidden Hand deck. So I am hyped about Kethis for sure. Yeah, Kethis for sure. And then the pet that I want to bring home is, I really want this bunny. That comes with a knight, obviously, but it feels like that's cheating a little bit. Can I just get this thing, the Salvager of Ruin right there? Can I get like a little spider robot with a glowing lantern? I like that. That's gonna be my pet bro to bring me home. Yeah, this is huge. The Risen Reef is huge. This guy, this is a bird, but this is a sentient bird. It's like adding, if I got Kaikar into my house, it would basically be like adding another roommate that's like more powerful than me. So like, no, that's not cool. So yeah, Bunny Knight would be very cool and obviously adorable, but I'm going to take a lantern that is sentient and walks around and like cleans stuff up. This looks like a way better Roomba. Like this Salvager of Ruin would just scuttle around my house and glow nicely and then just pick shit up, and I shouldn't swear, sorry. Pick stuff up off the ground and just clean. And so better Roomba, there you go. All right, let's finish out strong with the lands. Let's just skip down to the 2 amazing lands in this set. Oh my gosh. Field of the Dead and Lotus Field right here. How are we supposed to decide between the 2? Field of the Dead is a land that enters the battlefield tapped. You can add a colorless to your mana pool. Whenever Field of the Dead or another land enters the battlefield under your control, if you control 7 or more lands with different names, create a 2/2 black zombie creature token. Landfall, make a 2/2. Landfall is so easy to achieve. Zendikar's Royal automatically gives us 2/2s for landfall, but this is on a land. It just synergizes with everything so well. It's so easy to have multiple lands. This is basically just free dudes all the time. Let's just then go over to Lotus Field, which is also a super gross card. Let's scroll the right thing. Lotus Field. It's a land with hexproof. And when it enters the battlefield, it enters tapped. It enters the battlefield, sacrifice 2 lands. They can be tapped lands, so that's good. And you can add 3 mana of any one color. So do you have like a Curious Follower? Do you have anything that untaps your lands? And there's a lot of different things that untaps your lands. There's sorry, I'm going to need to look this up because it's a little bit of a Ooh. Is it Croson? Let's see if I'm smart. And I got it right on the first. Yes, I did! Croson Restorer. First off, love Croson Restorer's art. But this basically has threshold untap up to 3 lands. And there are other creatures that have untapped multiple lands on it. And whenever you have untapped multiple lands and you have lands that can produce lots of mana, then you have the potential for doing like really, really gross things. Like, for example, you can combine it with Mazavith to go infinite mana in your combat step. So you can attack with Croson Restorer and then use your own Mazavith to untap it. And then you use Croson Restorer to untap target land, which would be, the Mazavith. There's a lot of other super silly combos when you can untap lands. And when you can untap lands that produce 3 mana, then you can go off even more. Fate Stitchers are just solid pieces of mana ramp. The Curious Followers of the world that suddenly double this up and create crazy lands. Hexproof? Hexproof is awesome too. Remember that Noyan Dar deck we were talking about? Heck, let's just get a hexproof huge creature and stack all the tokens on top of it and get huge. Even simple things like Voyaging Satyr, you know what I mean? It just ends up being crazy. Oh man, Peregrine Drake too. All these different untapping things. Lotus Field is just going to be a solid card. It also enables land strategies, so you just get more lands in your graveyard so that you can get them back again, whether you're going to Mending of Dominaria them back onto the battlefield, or Splendid Reclamation them, or just Jund Planeswalker dude them back onto the battlefield again. It's just crazy. Like getting lands on the battlefield, getting lands into the graveyard is good. Especially when you get more value onto the battlefield, for sure. Yeah. Oh, Gitrog. Yeah. Gitrog monster with Lotus Field. Titania, Protector of Argoth. Yeah. Lord Windgrace. I mean, all of these things. It feels like it's so limited. Like it feels like, oh, it's just a land. It just nets me 1 mana. But it ends up being so good. Ooh, Red and 6. I don't know how Red and 6 plays, Sam, in Commander yet, mostly because I sold them when they got to be $1 bajillion. But yeah, Life from the Loam. Yeah, jeez. Okay. One other thing. Oh, the dogs are barking. I'll take a delicious sparks. Okay. We got a temple cycle. Okay. Temples are better than people think. Okay. The reason why is because in our format, no, they didn't stop. I think there's someone at the door, but that's okay. The temples are better than people think. And here's why. Coming onto the battlefield tapped is a serious disadvantage in a lot of different decks because your tempo means so much to you. Being able to hit your land drops, to be able to curve out is very, very important. In Commander, we shift our curve higher. We're playing 6 drops and 7 drops and 8 drops. And we do have a lot of lands in our deck. And so the ability to smooth out our draw when our deck is by nature slower and inconsistent is much more powerful than the tempo loss we take by having a land enter the battlefield tapped. It also fixes, so like it's doubly good. So these are much better than people think, and I'm glad that they're going to be budget because these should be super cheap and they should be budget lands, and the art on these is looking great already. And by the way, temples, everyone's talking about the callbacks to like Theros and stuff like that. We got some temple action going on. And then we are not going to talk... Oh, we're going to talk about Rayan, Angel of Rebirth, but we're not going to talk about all this other junk down here. So, last card of the set review, Rayan, Angel of Rebirth. This is the Buy a Box promo. 2 red, green, white for a 5/4 flyer. Other multicolored creatures you control get +1/+0. Whenever another multicolored creature you control dies, return it to its owner's hand at the beginning of the next end step. All right. This has combo potential, but hang on. Beginning of the next end step. Wah, wah, wah. Okay. But you can play a totally cool Naya multicolored deck, and this can sort of be fun and aggressive. It's not, I don't think people are going crazy over this card, and for good reason. It's aggressive, and aggressive doesn't work as well in Commander. It does let you, rebuy your multicolored cards, and it lets you do a cool build around. So that's why I like Rayanne, Angel of Rebirth, a lot. Okay. She's 6 wings. She's got a lot of wings. Okay, let's talk about in the lands, the cards that let's just say that the card that I'm most excited about is Field of the Dead, because you guys all like Lotus Field and I want to be different. And also because Lotus Field, let's see here. I think Lotus Field definitely is the only thing that's living. Yeah. Lotus Field is the pet I want to bring home. Because it's the only thing that looks like it's living, and then the art has got to be some of these like new temples. I think I'm loving the Temple of Silence art. Look at this, dude. Look at this art. It just looks so like, I don't know, menacing. Like the river to the underworld, the River Styx. Gosh, so good. And Field of the Dead is like, I think it's fun. I do want to scape shift. I want to scape shift in my Lands Matter deck into like a bunch of gross zombies just for no reason whatsoever. I think it's great. You could have a canyon for a pet. Why not? Why not? I'll have a canyon pet. Isn't that like a little dude there? All right. Maybe there's a good, I'm sure there's a good pet down here. Hang on. We're going to get a extra special pet down here. That bird's pretty good. Yan Ling's bird is pretty legit. Oh no. Yan Ling's bird is pretty legit, but we got a spectral crocodile. Yes. Or a Hellion, of course. No, we're going to take spectral crocodile as my final pet of the day. Even though I could have my own like Hollow Crest Knight thing that I could ride to work. Nah, spectral crocodile. All right, everyone. Thank you so much for joining me. What I'm going to do is I'm going to stop the stream for a minute so I can take a quick breather and drink some water. But then I'm going to come back and hang out, talk, answer some questions, talk to you guys a little bit about whatever you want to talk about. If you have questions about M20 or Commanders or some other stuff like that, or if you even want to hop on Arena and I can play with my VIP account, all that stuff is good. I'm going to make you guys all dizzy and like vomit from the scrolling right now in the background. No. But for the most part, I just want to thank you so much and say, hang on a few minutes while I take a break. You guys can take a break and we can come back together and chill for a little while. But some of you at home, you'll just be like, I'm done with the set review. I don't want to hang out. I'm watching this, 2 weeks from now. But so for all of you joining me a little bit later on YouTube, thank you so much for watching. For all of you that have stayed up late to see me, thank you so much for joining me. And for all of you that are hanging around to chat a little bit more, I'll be right back. Okay, bye.